Okay, welcome to Randolph and Martin's Friday Night Sports Talk. Tonight we've got Wayne, who's a Leeds fan. He's going to be with us shortly. He's running a little bit late. He's a proud Welshman, but he chased his dreams across the Atlantic. He's a football coach out in the States. Our second guest, I'll introduce him in a sec because obviously this is a sports show. So there's a little bit of a reasoning behind this. Last week, Lionel Messi signed for PSG. Our guest knows a little bit about Messi. He's heard it on the grapevine. But part of his £25 million a year deal is he's going to be getting paid in cryptocurrency. So who better to get on the show tonight was somebody that's high up in a cryptocurrency out in the States. So no further ado, we're going to welcome Rover, who is the CMO of SafeEarn. How are you doing, Rover?
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
No problem. I might as well fly off. I've had so many, I've got pages and pages of questions from Twitter from people. Obviously, we'll fire them off in a minute. Two questions. Last night, I watched you and listened to you on the Earncast. How many energy drinks did you drink before that podcast, and what were they? Because I need some.
There's actually a running joke, so I drink a lot of cold brew, and so I brew a lot of cold brew, but also I live in a place where there's like cold brew competitions, so I'm always drinking different cold brews. I drink about 1 liter to 1.5 liters of cold brew all day, so in between sips of cold brew I'm running to the bathroom.
What is cold brew? What is it?
Cold brew is basically it's compressed coffee, and then you just put it in the fridge overnight and you let it steep overnight, and it has like double the caffeine of regular coffee, and so you just drink it cold, and it's easy to drink, and it goes down like water.
I knew it was something. I thought there's no way this guy is as hyped as he is on water. I thought it was fantastic. I just want to introduce Wayne. Wayne's he's a football coach out in the States, Rover. He's a Welshman like myself, but he moved across a good few years ago, chasing his dream. A bit of an entrepreneur as well, so I know he's into shares and stuff like that. So he'll be interested in the next 20 minutes, half hour before we go on to the sport. All right, Wayne, this is Rover. He's the CMO of a cryptocurrency called SafeEarn. It's fairly new in the market, but it's making waves already. So that's you can't see him. The reason why you can't see him is same kind of reason as nobody knows who. Well, they don't even really know his name, but Satoshi, who's the owner of Bitcoin, nobody knows who he is. And it's a similar kind of thing with a lot of cryptocurrencies. People keep themselves to themselves for security reasons, plenty of other reasons. So that's why we can just see his name there. How you doing, Wayne?
Good. Best way to be anyway, Anonymous. Best way to be.
Yeah. The other question before actually moving on was last night it was on 11 p.m. UK time till 12. Just a suggestion from the UK market, if you can bring it back an hour or an hour earlier in your time, because after listening to you last night from 11 till 12 on hyperdrive, I couldn't get to sleep till about 1 a.m.
It's funny. That's not the first time I've heard that. I have considered moving it back, but also I'm kind of a stubborn jerk, so I might just enjoy keeping you up all night.
Well, just to bring you up to speed, the reason why we've got him on tonight is, well, quite a few reasons, but one obviously is to do with cryptocurrency. I don't know whether you realise Messi's was paid. His part of his contract's been paid in cryptocurrency.
In some part of shape or form, yeah.
Yeah. Well, apparently it's quite a big wedge. So whether it's of his signing on fee or whether it's part of his, obviously we can explain that in a bit. As I say, I've got loads of notes here because I've got so many questions from people. So obviously, in all seriousness, thanks for taking the time out tonight, Rover. I know you're a busy man, especially with all the stuff you got coming up with the new coin in the next weeks, months, and so on. So it's great to have you on.
Totally. Yeah. I have endless time for, outreach to the community, talking to people. That's like my number one thing.
Brilliant. Yes, it's great to have like a top guy in a currency who answers his DMs on Twitter and has some really good feedback. So firstly, what got you into crypto in the first place, and roughly when did you start?
I've been in crypto for a few years, mostly as an investor. So I kind of I made a bunch of money on XRP, on the run up before the SEC started, ragging on XRP for so many different reasons. And then I started getting involved in Ethereum. And, once I started getting involved in Ethereum, that was when basically I started digging into smart contracts, and I said, oh, there's a ton of money here in low market cap coins. So I was in OneCoin and they needed some marketing help. And so I just kind of, I said, hey, I can run this and I can do that. And I had a lot of success. And, so as time went on, I started realizing, hey, I could probably do this for more than one coin. So, I've worked with a couple of different coins between Ethereum. And then as the gas fees for Ethereum got so high, I moved on to the Binance Smart Chain. And I was always hesitant to get onto the Binance Smart Chain because it's like, oh, Pancake Swap or Pancake Bunny, and the names were ridiculous. I was like, there's nothing serious about this. But I started realizing that, not only did people want to hire me for marketing, but there was people who had kind of the same goals as me to, make the DeFi space a better place. So that was kind of, how I got into, where I am now with SafeEarn.
Okay, cool. So obviously you just answered my next question on what coin. This isn't in the script, but with it, I hold XRP. I have done for quite a while. What do you think, or how long do you think it's going to be then? Because the SEC have been dragging their feet now for a couple of years. I know it's coming to a close. Do you think it's very close? Do you think it's imminent?
I honestly wouldn't count on it being imminent. I mean, we're looking at 2023, 2024 before anything gets put on the books. I mean, I don't actually even know if you can trade XRP on any exchange here in the United States right now. So and it's probably the same for you guys over there across the pond. So I think it will still be a while. And, I have no money in XRP anymore because strictly because of that. So, I'm kind of all DeFi. I'm totally DeFi. And as far as XRP goes, until a little bit more clarity comes about, I'm not going to worry too much about it.
Okay. Right. First question from one of my followers then. Dave Likes a Rave asks, what coin that's not in the top 10 now do you think will be in the top 5 in about 5 years' time?
If you've heard me talk or do any calls before, I am 100% in Nano and Banano. Banano is a fork of Nano. It's kind of like the meme coin of what Nano is. So Nano is instant and feeless transactions. I think it's the future. I think it's everything that Bitcoin was supposed to be. And I genuinely think that, as far as like blockchain technology goes, it doesn't get any better than that. It's also decentralized in so many ways, because the way that it works is somebody has to, volunteer to set up a node, to process these transactions. And, so I always imagine that, there's just some tech genius in every little neighborhood across, suburbs and inner cities and everything. And these guys are, they're hosting all of these transactions. So, I'm thinking about small mom and pop shops that are trying to process cryptocurrency transactions and, fiat currency. They're sick and tired of paying fees in credit cards and so on and so forth. They could just do it with Nano. It's instant and it's feeless, but it will depend on, these community actors to basically provide the nodes that these transactions can happen. I think that that's the future of decentralization. I think that it's the future of cryptocurrency transactions and the future of businesses collecting money without, getting those peering eyes of the IRS. And I don't know if you guys probably have something similar to the IRS over in the UK, but the peering eyes of the government, to keep them out of, business transactions and everything, it will be dependent on community action first. And that's why I'm like all in on Nano. I will always be a Nano holder. That is for sure.
Okay, cool. So when you're obviously I've been in quite a few Twitter spaces with you, and it's interesting listening and speaking on quite a few of the subjects. There's going to be quite a few people listening on Friday to this with who are part of SafeMOON, SafeEarn, SafeVault, but there's also going to be a lot of sports people who listen in. A normal Joe public, half the stuff that you've just mentioned there to do with, we haven't even mentioned things like exchange and blockchain and stuff like that. So in plain English, what is cryptocurrency?
Yeah. So, I mean, cryptocurrency at the barest bones, it's intended to be a digital currency, a digital way for you to exchange goods. However, it has kind of expanded into a way to where it has multiple use cases, of which we call utility. And so getting into cryptocurrency is kind of basically placing your bet on a horse that one cryptocurrency has more utility than the other. The most popular one being Bitcoin. What's the utility of Bitcoin? It's a store of value. It's where you can, quote unquote, be your own bank. And so when we're talking about what is cryptocurrency, specifically going down to where we are now in the smart contract world, basically it is a way for a cryptocurrency to act in more than one manner, with many different people managing their own kind of business within it. And now that sounds very confusing, and it doesn't sound like the plain English that you want it to be, but it's actually pretty easy to understand once you kind of get the idea that anybody can make a cryptocurrency. Anybody could have made Bitcoin. What these smart contracts do is they enable you and your friends or your business partners to make a currency and then market it. And as long as you're a competent developer, you can come up with your own use case and therefore get people to buy it and give a lot of value to your own currency, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so what do you think the goal is in 5 to 10 years? Where do you see cryptocurrency, in plain and simple terms, as in, do you think in 5 years, at the moment, there's a lot of people saying, oh, it's a gimmick, it's this, it's that. But then on the other hand, they'll go into a store, they'll put their phone on a card reader, and they can pay with their mobile phone. So where would you think cryptocurrency lies in that in, say, 10 years' time?
Yeah, so 10 years time is a way better way to look at it. 5 years time, I don't see too much change. I still see a lot of pushback happening, specifically from both of our governments, being world leaders and so on. So I definitely see, a lot of pushback coming from that angle. But I think over the next couple of years, we're going to start seeing a run up of these poorer countries turning to cryptocurrency, not just for, the exchanging of goods, but also for doing certain things like I was just talking about with smart contracts, paying out insurance benefits, paying out we have what we call food stamps here in the United States. I don't know what you guys probably have a welfare program over there in the United Kingdom. So imagine a digital currency that gets automatically distributed to people via digital currency, and then that way you don't have to sit there and wait in line and get your hand out. And I didn't mean hand out in any kind of derogatory term there, but it's what it's going to be is it's going to speed up a lot of the holdup of governments. And I think that as that happens, the world is going to start opening their eyes to, hey, wait a minute, this is here to stay. And not only is it going to benefit us, technologically, but also it's going to be a great way for us to find a use for money. And now my own personal view here is that robots are going to start taking over. We're finding a lot less need for people to work at McDonald's and make burgers because robots can do it. And that's just a simple example. But, we should look at robots taking over as a good thing. People should work less and robots should do more jobs. And so how do you make money in that way? Well, investments and digital currency and passive income. And that can all be done with cryptocurrency. And I think that a lot more people are going to get their eyes open to it. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to do with SafeEarn. We're giving a lot of people an opportunity to earn passive income. And I think that if people can, be given the opportunity to earn passive income, they'll start to say, well, why am I standing on my feet for 8 hours a day and busting my chops and paying for my own uniform when I can make the same amount of money, investing in this digital currency that may or may not change my life in the future. If it's not SafeEarn, it will be somebody else. So that's my thought. In 10 years time, we're all going to be really fat and robots are going to take over. We're all going to be eating chicken off the drumstick. That's for sure.
It's funny you should say that about the welfare system. I don't think I should be able to say this on the radio, but I was talking to somebody yesterday who's works in government, and within 2 years, they think that cash will be gone from the welfare system. That it's not going to be crypto, but it'll all be done bank to bank. which was the next step from getting rid of cash. I only heard that yesterday, and that was regarding the welfare system.
Yeah, the current food stamp system here in the United States, you get a card and it's just like a credit card, and it spends the money, but you can't, but there's so many limitations to how you can spend it. All of that could be managed directly from a smart contract. And it would actually be easier to manage from the government perspective, because then they wouldn't have to integrate with so many different, point of sale systems, and they wouldn't have to set up so many regulations. They could literally just code it, and then it would be set, and then you distribute the currency to distribute on a certain day every single week, and that's what you get. That's your stipend. It would be easier for the government in that regard to manage it through a smart contract.
I get you. So trying to explain to somebody, what crypto, why you should get into crypto. When I get involved with conversation with people, generally it's like, oh, it's a scam. It'll never replace cash. You've mentioned fiat a couple of times. For the normal Joe public, fiat is cash. So that when they talk about fiat, it's cash. I just basically say to them, look, 100 odd years ago, somebody somewhere came up with a piece of paper and wrote a number 1 on it, and instead of trading a horse in for another horse, they gave them a piece of paper and convinced them that was worth something. How would you get around those questions?
Yeah, well, 20 years ago, everyone said that the internet was going to be a fad. And, look at where we are now. You can't even apply for the welfare system without a computer, nowadays. And, especially with COVID, you can't do school without the internet. You have to do school from home. So I think that this is the next development of advancement. It's that, we don't need anybody to manage our money when, we can do it ourselves. And that's kind of where I think that we're going. And I think people are hesitant. People like, and this isn't putting anybody down, but people like leadership, and people like rules. People like being able to fall into a box. And that's what the government does with fiat cash right now. But, Bitcoin's already been around for about 10 years at this point. And, so now it's only it just hit $60,000, like six weeks ago. We know for a fact that more and more people are getting into crypto. And, specifically right now with SafeMoon, when SafeMoon first took off, and now this might be a little bit out there for people who aren't into crypto right now, but SafeMoon took off, but it didn't take off immediately. And SafeMoon, it took them like a month to even get to 10,000 holders, or to get to 3,000 holders. It took SafeEarn, which is now a month old, 1 week to get the same amount of holders. So we know for a fact that more and more people are purchasing crypto on this smart contract, very low market cap level. So we know that more and more people are adopting it. And if that's not like the perfect example of it, just looking at how, it's showing up in the news more often. Everybody knows what Bitcoin is now. And I think in Africa, they were saying, in some specific country in Africa, they were saying that at least 45% of people own a cryptocurrency. That is intense. That's Nigeria. Quite a bit. Nigeria, yes. And I think that we're going to start seeing that more and more often. So, it may take another 10 years, because now using the internet example, 20 years it took for the internet to finally become a staple in our lives and something that everybody had to interact with. Now, 20 years into Bitcoin's future, it's going to be a staple. Is it always going to be Bitcoin? Maybe not. Me personally, I say no. I don't own any Bitcoin, but I think that, cryptocurrency is the future.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I started mining Bitcoin in 2015 because it was a choice of either buying Bitcoin for about £300, I think it was, so whatever that $400 odd dollars, or spending a couple of grand on an ant miner, mining it, and then gradually getting it over the months and years, and that paid off. But again, it was back in the day where it was, the guy bought a pizza for 3 Bitcoin, and as you said, now the Bitcoin's, I think it's $46,000 at the moment. So he paid $120,000 for a pizza, because obviously that's, that's how narrow-minded a lot of people are. And as you said just now, but it's 2% of the population, so once it gets to 4, 5, 6%, these things are going to explode. So going into a grocery store, and you've got your phone on you, and you've got your wallet with your cash on you, what's the advantage? Obviously a pound 50 years ago doesn't buy you anything. So the pound is deflated, whereas in the last 15 years, 1/100th of a Bitcoin has gone up and the pound has gone down. So it's only going one way, surely, with, on that access.
Yeah, well, I think that sentiment is true for the United States dollar as well. It's because of government. Ultimately, it's the spending that we can't control. It's that we, our voices, they say they matter, but they don't necessarily have the impact on how the money is spent. It's not going towards the programs that we need, and it's getting seriously inflated, and there's less of it going around. So, that's why cryptocurrency is going to be so important, because nobody else is going to be able to control it that way, unless the government releases their own cryptocurrency, which we've already known has failed in China. It's not going to, people don't want the government in their money anyways. I mean, that sentiment has gone back as far as, before, people even came over from England into, the United States, before it was even the United States. But, and our 7th president, he was a big proponent against the centralized bank. And I think that, despite his own racism and stuff like that, he was really onto something, because, the centralized banks all across governments is they destroy and they corrupt. And, we need a currency that is going to be, that's not going to get hands in it to be able to corrupt it. You should be able to, like max supply. I mean, like now, if you look at currency as if you look at like real fiat currency as a crypto, right? You would say, okay, great. Now the top 1% of people, the people who have the most of it, they own like 83% of the entire supply. So now 17% of the entire supply is distributed amongst 99% of the people. To me, that's a shitty distribution. Like I wouldn't buy that cryptocurrency. I would say, okay, somebody's going to dump on me and I'm going to lose all the value of my coin. So, and now that goes across all the other governments. So now why shouldn't we look into other forms of crypto or other forms of currency?
That's a good explanation. So, again, for the layman that's listening, wallet, exchange, and blockchain, they'll be hearing those words a lot more, especially when, as you said, it's 2% of the population. When it gets to 4, 5, 6, people are talking. I've had my phone's exploded tonight from people in SafeMoon and SafeEarn and other cryptocurrencies asking when they ask questions. So that's going to come up. What's a wallet? What's an exchange? And then what's a blockchain?
Yeah, so that's interesting to think about, that people don't really know the difference. But so basically the exchange is what allows you to turn fiat currency into cryptocurrency, at the barest of bones. But what a blockchain is it's an immutable way for information to be processed. So like, if you think about right now, if you were to send data into a form on the computer, your name and your email, somebody could go into the back end and they could be like, they could change your name from Randolph to, and now this is just a joke, but they could change it to Randy, right? So now they could do that. But you can't do that on the blockchain. You can't go into the back end of the database and just change somebody else's input. So now if you think about that in terms of money, so now if I submitted money through a form, theoretically, somebody, and now this goes for banks. Banks literally can go into your account and just change the numbers. That's what they do. And, because it's not built in a way where anybody can't change it. So a blockchain is, it's a permanent source of information that's publicly reflected reflected so that anybody can see it at any given time. And that's what makes it beautiful, is so that you can't lie about where money's going. You can't lie. I mean, sure, you can be anonymous, but you can't lie that, you know, $1 million was sent here, or you know, the government couldn't lie and be like, oh yes, we have $1 trillion for war, and no money for schools. They could be like, oh, but why did it go into, you know, this governor's pocket? Why did it do that? Because we can see it, you know, and it would be you know, everyone always says, oh, you're going to use cryptocurrency for drugs and for crime and all this stuff. And it's like, well, if you look back at the last, I don't know, 2,000 years of civilization, what's been used for drugs and crime the most? Fiat currency.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great explanation. So your coin then, SafeEarn, what makes it different from Bitcoin? Why should somebody buy it? Obviously, it's a lot cheaper, which makes it attractive. But what are the fundamentals of SafeEarn?
Yes. So the fundamental difference is that Bitcoin acts as a store of value. Bitcoin is something that you buy, and the value is always going to be there. It can always obviously go up or down, but you know, you're investing in, you know, the future of currency. That's, you know, it's a vision that they have. SafeEarn, on the other hand, is actually something totally different. SafeEarn is a passive income making opportunity for you. So you buy a coin called Binance Coin, and you exchange it for SafeEarn. And SafeEarn, then just simply by holding it, it gives you, it pays you just for holding it. It pays you in SafeMoon tokens. So that acts as like a way for you to get a passive income. So now what you get with those rewards is totally yours. You don't have to do anything with them if you don't want to, and you can sell them if you want to. They're yours. So that's kind of what it is. And in the future, you know, it's going to expand just beyond paying you out in SafeMoon, and it's going to expand into multiple different ways of earning other than just holding it. So what SafeEarn is pretty much a guarantee for the future that you will have a way to make money that is beyond just the value of your investment rising or falling.
Great. So that's what they call in the crypto space tokenomics.
Correct.
And then what would be cryptonomics?
Honestly, I'm not too sure. I've only heard that word in the SafeMoon community. I'm not too
okay.
I'm not too sure about it.
All right, okay. I wasn't trying to catch you out. Honestly, I thought you would. You know, it's the same as tokenomics, but you can get passive income off other coins if they're being held in your wallet, especially with like the SafeMoon wallet. So if you've got Bitcoin in there, you can get passive income off Bitcoin. That's what they're looking at when the wallet and exchange and blockchain is all up. I think they've just trademarked the name. That may be why you if you'd only heard it. That's
got it. Yeah, I always just assumed they were the same thing and people were just using them interchangeably.
Yeah, they pretty much are, but it's for other coins. How long do you think this is probably the biggest bugbear, and not a criticism, but it is in a way, of all the coins? As somebody that's been in crypto for a good few years, and I thought I was pretty clued up, but for 98% who aren't in it, for them to go and buy SafeEarn, more than Bitcoin is slightly easier. How long do you think it'll be before they can literally go on their phone, go onto an app, press the buy button, and then have it straight into their wallet, as opposed to doing basically what you've just said, opening up a wallet, opening up a Binance account, which that's two different apps, buying the BNB coin, switching it across to your wallet, then you've got to swap it in a pancake swap, and you've got to do a slippage rate and change different things. And the first time I did it, it took me about 4 hours. I knew there was so much potential that I had to get it, but I was very close to giving up. So if I'm close to giving up, a normal person who's not into it, there must be so many millions flying by the wayside who wanted it but didn't have that buy button.
Yes. So we've already made strides to make it easier a little bit. So we can't cut out the process of, going to the exchange and all of that, but we made something called the Safe Swapper, which will cut out the entire pancake swap exchanging bit for you, turning BNB Binance Coin into SafeEarn. Now that's what we've done so far. But with, the developments of SafeMoon, as I'm sure you're aware, their main thing with the wallet is that it's going to be easier to just purchase SafeMoon like that. So now we hope, since we are, basically paying people to hold our token in SafeMoon, we're hoping that then it will then be even easier. Somebody buys SafeMoon and then they exchange a percentage of it directly for SafeEarn. And so, we have that ability to make that exchange, the SafeMoon directly into SafeEarn. And we already have that feature on our app, on our website. But I think that the number one difficulty with it is, again, the government and their regulations. And it's because, they're standing in the way of different exchanges, being able to allow people to purchase cryptocurrency, because they don't want you to stop using fiat. That's the one thing. They don't want you to. They want to have control. They want to be able to tax you on it, and they want to be able to see everything you're buying and selling.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've tried Binance in the UK. I know they've banned quite a few things. I've had to ring my bank 3 times in the last couple of months to unblock my card from buying cryptocurrency. So I've seen it firsthand. So yeah, that's a good thing. That buy button. What's your take on obviously Simplex are behind the buy button with SafeMoon, and I know that their fees are quite high. Do you think that'll change?
Yeah, I do. And I think that just depends on, the future of how crypto goes. And I think that, like I said, 5 years, I still see a lot of pushback happening. But 10 years, I think that we're all going to be using crypto. And, so until we reach that threshold, I think that we're going to have to just keep dealing with that.
Okay. So in an ideal world, if I was a parent of one of Wayne's football kids, and I went to his place and he charges X amount for however many coaching sessions, and I went in with my phone and say, I don't know however much it is, $100 for a month or 3 months, whatever it is, and I put my phone down and paid him in SafeEarn, and it was $100, and then tomorrow when he looked at his bank account, it was $90 because it's dropped by quite a bit, or it might be $110 because it's gone up. Obviously there's pluses and minuses. What would be the workaround around that? Obviously, they say that a stable coin is Bitcoin, but it's gone up by $16,000 in 3 weeks. It's great for some people, but then when it drops after you've bought it, for say a car, for example, the car owner might have lost $5,000 on a 30 grand purchase. Where do you see that going?
Yeah, so I think from a business owner standpoint, it benefits them to accept as many cryptocurrencies as they possibly can. So that's where like a smart contract comes in. And now you're talking about using SafeEarn to buy goods and services. Now, how about we add something to the code in a contract that says that if it's being used for goods and services for the business owner, it automatically converts it to a stable coin that is pegged to, one coin equals $1, so on and so forth, or that value equals $1. Why not add that? So then as the business owner, you don't actually own any value. Yes, and the business owner can then decide, do I want to keep SafeEarn and ride that potentially volatile price value, or do I want to just get the stable coin?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's a good answer. I was just thinking of Lionel Messi, part payment. If you're looking at the PSG coin, which is the token of Paris Saint-Germain, if he took $1 million of his 25 million on day one, because I'm sure he had a signing on bonus or whatever you wanted to call, part of his welcome pack. At the time, it was $25 per token, and within 2 days of him signing, it spiked to $58. So that 1 million that he was given straight away has gone up to 2.3. So obviously there's a plus, straight away on one side, but there's no way it was going to go down. I think he sold 220,000 shirts within the first 48 hours. So they've got 21 million euros of his first year's 25 million within 48 hours, which is ridiculous. Next question from SafeMoon Hammer on Twitter. Once SafeEarn has helped SafeMoon reduce the total supply and the price is where we believe it should be, will SafeEarn then move away from SafeMoon and reflect other coins? Or I'll just add to that, will you keep reflecting and have other coins as well?
Yes, 100%. So we've already been kind of teasing this new feature called RBLOs. It's called a reflection-backed liquidity offering. And, I can't give too many details until it comes out, which is planned for August 27th. But what it is, it's going to be an additional way to earn. So you will always be able to get reflections in SafeMoon just by holding. If that's what you want to do, it's worry-free. You just do it. Great. But these RBLOs, what it's going to do is it's going to allow us to, you can perhaps stake one coin and then receive SafeEarn. So now you can double up. So now say you're in many other cryptocurrencies and you want to stake those and you want to get more SafeEarn. You would just enter the pool, you deposit the token in, and then you're given extra SafeEarn tokens, which then also compounds and gives you more SafeMoon. So that's the idea behind it. And it comes from any other token that has, a big enough following. So the idea is that, yes, any other token could theoretically apply here. And you will always be able to earn on it.
Okay, great. I've got Crypto Laserman. Some of these Twitter handles are crazy. In fact, before I asked that question, I had a guy message me last week for advice, and it's related to this question. He was a newbie. He bought some. Which way was it now? He bought some SafeMoon, and for your benefit, Mart, if you buy some any one of these coins, they charge you a fee to leave. So it's better that they try and make you stay. It benefits you all around, because if you were a coin that you could leave and come back, then you'd have big investors come in, pump the price, you sell, and then the little people would lose their money. Whereas having fees discourages that. And this guy had bought SafeMoon, only $90 worth, so not a huge amount. But as soon as he saw the price dropping and SafeEarn coming up, he sold it, lost his 10% of his $80 straight away, and then he was in SafeEarn. SafeEarn dropped a little bit, and his question to me was, shall I transfer it back? Well, SafeEarn has got a higher, I think it's, what's SafeEarn's price?
It's 15% tax on every entry and exit.
So he would have lost that 15%. He'd already lost 10, so 25% straight away was gone. I was like, yes. No, stay where you are, stay where you are. So this guy's question is, what are your thoughts on divesting from SafeMoon into SafeEarn or SafeVault? And I presume your answer is going to be the same as mine.
Yeah, the general answer there is you need to be very conscious of these. It's not something that can be day traded. It's an investment. It's not something that you're just going in and you're counting on the value to go up. It's supposed to be basically an earning platform. You're supposed to buy and hold. So, you're going to pay those taxes. But ideally, when it comes to SafeMoon going into SafeEarn, you need to be conscious of that, and you either need to accept the loss or not do it at all.
Yeah. No, great. Okay, next question from a guy called Martin. Who do you think is going to win on Saturday, Arsenal or Chelsea?
Me?
I'm only joking.
You start to, didn't you? Said nothing about Leeds, of course.
Listen, I watched the movie Green Street Hooligans, and so I'm gonna go ahead with Chelsea, because it's the only name I know.
Oh, that's good because he's an Arsenal fan.
Well, the thing
Okay.
on that film as well, they said Arsenal play nice football, but not very good at fighting. We don't really play that nice football at the minute either, so still not very good at fighting by the sound of it either.
Okay, so what we'll do, let's talk more about SafeEarn then. I'm already in, so but with again for the general public, why should I invest in SafeEarn? What's the
So we should invest in SafeEarn because you're hoping to, put you want to set it and forget it. So yeah, the price may rise and fall, but you want to be able to make passive income all along the side, all along the way. I apologize for the background noise. But you want to invest in SafeEarn because, first of all, right now it's great. Lots of people are earning money and you can actually visualize it by using our app. But you should also invest in SafeEarn, for the future, what the future holds in terms of passive income. And that goes back to my whole thing where, I hope that, a couple of years in the future, we're all going to be sitting like fat cats and not working, and robots are going to be doing all the jobs.
Yeah, no. Just to, I suppose, double down on that. That's, there's two reasons for getting into, cryptocurrency. There's you mentioned XRP earlier on. You could have bought it 3-4 years ago and it was a penny. Then it spiked at about $3.50. So you could have made, 3,500% on your £10 you put in or your £1,000 you put in, and you could have made a lot of money. But on this one, SafeMoon, SafeEarn as well, you put your money in and you get a thing called reflections, which are, I suppose, if how would you describe reflections? I know it's passive income, but how would you?
Yeah, so reflections basically, I can explain it a little bit. So reflections are what we were talking about. It's 15% to enter and 15% to exit. So reflections take a portion of that tax and it buys the other token and it pays that out to everybody. So depending on how many tokens you hold, you will get a percentage of every single transaction. So you are able to, just passively earn because of those taxes. And that's what the reflections are. They're just a portion of the taxes of people going in and out.
A good example of that, Mart. I know that you said you know nothing about that, about cryptocurrency. I hold SafeEarn and SafeMoon, and the last 2 days, a couple of big investors sold roughly 10 trillion tokens. No idea how much that is monetary wise. I haven't looked it up, but it's a lot. And because they sold so many coins, everybody else in the pool made money off it. So I normally get about 1 million reflections a day, and yesterday I made 9 million reflections. It's only worth part of a penny per, but once it goes up, those 9 million reflections, if that gets up to a cent in 10 years time, that's hundreds of thousands of pounds that you've got for nothing.
Right.
That's an easy way of looking at it. So what's the long-term vision of SafeEarn as a company?
The long-term vision is to basically be a giant hub for giving other tokens utility and for giving holders passive income. And so the big vision is to be, the end-all be-all name in making passive income fun and easy.
And the short-term vision, so like the next 6 to 12 months, apart from
yep. So the short-term vision right now is to find that perfect mix between utility and passive income. Once it's made and it's marketed properly and people are catching on, that is when we can start going full steam ahead into making sure that we are number one.
Perfect. So I was listening last night. I got the the announcement about the burn, about the is it the Mighty Ducks, that film that was on the
Yes, that was the original Mighty Ducks.
Yes, yeah. Emilio Estevez, that's and Charlie Sheen, isn't it? Yeah, it's the one. I'm old enough to remember that as the original. Mart, who I found out recently, didn't even remember the 1980 something, 1990s Olympics. So we've got a minor and we've got a major and we've got an in between. Yeah. So what's all that about? What's all that about?
Yeah, so basically SafeMoon right now has an incredibly large supply. And that supply, it affects a lot of what's going on with the price of SafeMoon. So what you can do is you can quote unquote burn tokens. And burning tokens is the action of buying them and then sending them to the burn address so that they're completely out of circulation. So now what that's going to do is raise the value of everybody's tokens all at once, because you'll in theory have more percent of all of the tokens, but also it's going to reduce the supply and create scarcity, and scarcity is going to if it's kind of like Bitcoin, so Bitcoin, by 2021, it will probably take you a year to mine one single Bitcoin because they're going to become so scarce and so rare. So the idea is to make SafeMoon scarce and rare as well. And so just burning them is the way that we're going to do it.
Okay. Yeah. So I think when I started mining, you were able to get roughly 12 to 14 in a year. And again, Mart, what that means by mining is you imagine a safe with 12 Bitcoins in it, but there's 20 million keys and you've got to try and find the right one to open it. The ant miner that I've got, which costs around about 250 quid a month in electricity, finds the key. But if it takes a year to find it, then you get 12 Bitcoin. Now it's down to nearly 1 to 2 Bitcoins, because they're trying to keep it going until I think it's the year 2052 is when the last coins, and there's only 18 million of them. So they'll get more scarce and more scarce. But I think within the next year, I'll have to turn it off because it won't be worth me 1 Bitcoin. Well, it will be at the price it's at now. But a couple of years ago, I had to turn it off for 6 months because the cost of electricity for a year was the same or more than what the Bitcoin was because it dropped so much. Now it's back on and full steam ahead, and it's doing okay. SafeMoon wallet, which obviously you're linked to as well because of the anything to do with SafeMoon that's on a positive side is going to be on the positive side for SafeMoon. So are you looking forward to that being released the day after the your raffle?
Yes, I do. I am looking forward to it because the wallet. So now you may know that our app that we have is in alpha version right now. So there's all kinds of errors that we get every day, and especially when there's so many people who aren't familiar with crypto, it becomes very tedious to answer lots and lots of people about the same issue over and over and over. We are hoping that the SafeMoon wallet will, cure us of these issues. People will ditch the software that doesn't work, and they will move into the software that does work. So that's what we're looking forward to the most. But then in addition, like you were saying with the buy SafeMoon button that will reduce the need for all of that crap with exchanges and worrying about all of that, then that's pretty much what we're counting on the most. But also there's what's going to be called the SafeMoon squeeze, and the SafeMoon squeeze is where people will drive a ton of volume into it, and that's supposed to be happening on the 28th. And people will drive a ton of volume into SafeMoon, burn a ton of tokens in the process, increase that scarcity, and bring SafeMoon back to that positive sentiment that we all know and love.
Yes, I agree. I'm looking forward to that as well. I know that Satoshi Bets is pushing it, and there's quite a few influencers pushing it as well. One other thing that's it's slightly away from that, NFTs and the artwork. I haven't looked into it. What's your explanation on that? I don't follow it really. So I just that's something that's probably I know nearly every question that I've asked you tonight because it's to inform the public and increase awareness. But this is a question that I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, so NFTs are kind of strange. Personally, for me, I think of NFTs as so you go to a museum and you say, oh, great, I want to own that one. They say, well, you can't own it. You can only put a name tag on it that says that you own it. Okay, great. Is that going to be displayed publicly? No, it's going to be in the janitor's closet, and nobody's going to know unless they really look into it. That is essentially what it is. But you do own it and you add to your collection. So now there's a lot of big wigs putting a lot of money into NFTs and starting collections. Now that trickles down, and people, like you and I, who aren't, super rich or well off people, where we want to do this as well. We want to own NFTs. Maybe an artist that we really like, they make like 10 of one art piece. Great. Now you are one of 10 people who gets to say that they own this art piece. Then, now say 10 years from now, it's the same thing as art, except you just can't physically own it. You own it digitally, and being able to sign for it digitally is great. But NFTs extend beyond art. And that is the main thing that you need to know, because now think of NFTs in the context of event tickets. Now, if you're going to a football game, and every time you go to the football game, there's somebody outside and they're scalping tickets, and they're telling you, oh, get this ticket. And then you go to the door and, oh, they're fakes. You can't get in. I actually have no idea if that's a real thing in the UK, but it is here in the United States. You try to go to a show, and you bought tickets off of somebody off the street, and turns out they're falsified tickets, and now you can't get in, and you just paid full price for a set of fake tickets. Now, if those tickets were NFTs, that you could verify that they were real on the blockchain. And so now you could limit capacity. So nobody could be duplicating tickets and selling them. You could limit 10,000 of one ticket created. 10,000 people can own them. Now they get to go to the event, and you can exchange them on the blockchain, sure, but they would be able to tell if there is a fake ticket just digitally and very simply. And then on top of that, now say that event was, say it was Arrows, or let's use a UK example. Say it was the Beatles' last show, right? And I hope that wasn't. There are more UK bands that I know. Let's Oasis, Beatles, whatever. Now say it's their last show ever, and it's now a nominal event. Now you own the NFT to that ticket. Now, 10 years down the line, somebody says, I want somebody's ticket, and I'm willing to pay $1 million for it. You can prove its authenticity because it's on the blockchain. That's what I think the future of NFTs is. I think the art collection and stuff, I think it's all, pretty moot. I think that it's kind of I think it's just for fun. It really has nothing to do with me. But, in regards to SafeEarn, we are intending to add a NFT marketplace so that holders of our token can create their own NFTs for their own art and sell it to other holders of SafeEarn. And I think that beyond just being a way to collect art, it's also going to be a way for people who don't have a huge following to, advertise themselves and their art to a pool of like-minded individuals who want to make passive income.
Okay, would that stop then if I bought an NFT ticket to go and watch? I don't know. I've got tickets next month to see the World Heavyweight Championship down in London. At the moment, I was lucky enough to get the tickets for 110 quid each, and they were very, very scarce to get. I think 100,000 people were waiting on the list, and I luckily got 6 tickets. So would that stop me then from being able to sell them for a profit? Because I know that that's a big thing in the UK, and people are being scammed out of. I could have sold my 6 tickets, which was 660 quid for 3.5 grand. That's what they're going for. Would that stop that?
It wouldn't. So you would be able to exchange them on the blockchain. You can still send them and collect the amount. Now imagine, and so now the biggest problem with that isn't that the rising value or anything, or that you can't send it. The biggest problem is that the venue owner, the person whose show you're going to see, they don't make any money off of the rising value of their tickets. So you bought them for 110 quid. Now you're saying they're worth 3,300. The whoever's putting on the show, they don't make any of that money. So now imagine you can attach a tax to it. So if you do exchange it, now that tax goes directly back to the whoever's hosting the event. And so now the venue owners and the entertainment, they don't have to lose out on scalpers or resellers taking a large chunk of it. They can always have a piece of endless transactions.
I think Eddie Hearn will be loving that. The boxing promoter. That's a big thing for a big bugbear in. I know boxing at least, and not so much about football. That's more of a case of the touts outside the ground, like you mentioned just now with the fake tickets. Because that does happen in the it does happen in the UK as well. It's been great having you on, Rover. I've been looking forward to this for a good few days because I know Wayne there is big into his football and his sport, and it's a sports channel, but it was good to get a different perspective for for once, and hopefully in 6 to 12 months we'll get you back on here, and you'll have made me a boatload of money.
I hope so too, and I'll do my own due diligence. I'll watch a football game.
Yes, yeah. Either watch the guy in the top, Martin. He's an Arsenal fan. And the one at the bottom, Wayne. He's a Leeds United fan. I know there's there's fan clubs in all countries of the world, so I know that there's a following. What's the following like of Leeds out in America? On top of you.
Yeah, it's pretty big. There's a Leeds United America's supporters group which people can join, whatever state you're in the United States. They do a meet every 6 months. There's one now coming up in Atlanta in October. So everybody part of that supporters group will go and meet in Atlanta. I think the last one was in Vegas. So they get around the country as well. They pop up all over the place. Obviously, I'm in New Jersey, so I'm connected with the New York one because I'm not far from New York. So our supporters group is the New York Whites. It's strong. Every time I go up to the city to watch a game, there's at least 40 or 50 expats there, or even American-based Leeds fans now, as you can imagine, since they got back into the Premier League. Some American fans are starting to watch them a little bit as well now and support them. So. It's Leeds has always been the same. It's a pretty well supported club across the UK, Ireland, and Europe, I would say. But worldwide as well, States, Australia. I think it's a club that's got a far reach. But yeah, in the States, it's good. You'll never if you're in a major city, you'll never fail to watch a game if Leeds is on without a crowd.
No, that's cool. Rover, your ice hockey. I've only just put the 2 and 2 together with the Mighty Ducks. That was your sport then as a youngster?
Yes, I played ice hockey pretty much all of my life. Now I play recreational roller hockey, but ice hockey was always kind of my first love.
Is that old man's hockey, or is that just?
Yeah, pretty much at this point, it is.
And you mentioned lacrosse as well. Is that big out in the States then?
It's actually not. It's not huge. But I mean, like college is, it's very, very competitive. It's an extremely competitive game, and I don't know why it's not more popular. Especially because it's probably the most American sport you can get. Native Americans created lacrosse and they played it all their lives. So I don't know why it's not necessarily popular here. But so I played lacrosse in high school, and the team that I was on, I was the first, I was on the first roster ever created for our town. And, so we went out and we lost every single game. It was kind of a lot like the Mighty Ducks, we got our butts handed to us every single time. And we ended up spending much more time fighting than actually playing. And, lacrosse, it's a brutal, brutal sport. But so I did end up getting accepted to college on a lacrosse scholarship. And, so I went to college. I graduated with 2 marketing degrees. And, but so I played lacrosse for my first year as a freshman. And I got booted off the team because I wasn't a big enough guy. I wasn't a big enough player. And, you go out there, it's intimidating. And, so if you ever jump into my calls all the time, I'll make the reference to the Space Jam with the Toon Squad and the Monstars. And, so going out there, I was like little Daffy Duck, and every other player was one of the Monstars after they drink the big juice and they turn into huge giant monsters. I really got my butt kicked, and it was pretty brutal. So I only made it 1 year in college, but I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for both hockey and lacrosse. And I think they're similar kinds of guys are always driven to play those sports. It's a very, like jock sport. You know, it's like football for people who like handling sticks, I guess. It's much more wrist management.
On Brutal, how's your neck, Wayne? He broke his neck a good few months ago, Rover, playing like for soccer. So how's it going now? I know it's been a few months.
It has, yeah. Good. Had a scan about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, Steve. The surgeon who's been looking after me, first class care out here in the States. I've got to be honest. They were happy with the way everything that I've had put inside of me, all the hardware, as they call it, is fusing nicely. I'm still getting some problems in my left leg and my hands and my arms a little bit, but nothing that's not to be expected, if you like. You know what I mean? A lot of numbness, a lot of pins and needles, but no pain or anything like that. And I think it's going to feel weird for anywhere up to, I mean, they said anywhere up to 12 to 18 months afterwards. So considering this only happened in April, which doesn't seem like that long ago, where I'm at right now is really satisfactory. So I appreciate you asking, but yeah, doing okay.
So like settling down for the nerves, then, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and any type of nerve damage is, it was a spinal cord issue as well. So, anything like that takes time. So I'm trying not to do anything to set myself back. Let's put it like that.
And you mentioned just now about the Leeds fans. Was that is that where you go and you actually play in a game and you wear the Leeds kit and stuff? I've seen you out there.
We have done. There used to be a couple of, it hasn't now for the last couple of seasons. There used to be a massive supporters cup tournament in Manhattan, which was it was kind of like the highlight of the year. It was always a brilliant day out. And they stopped running it for some reason. I don't know what happened with the organizers, but the last ever one there was, I did score the winner in the final. So there's a little bit of history there. We had a write up in the Leeds match day program as well, which I've got a copy of here. So there was pictures of us in a match day program, for one of Leeds' home games that particular season. So a lot fitter then, no injuries then. So So yeah, but yeah, if I go up, we go up and there's a designated pub and everything. We watch the games, and I don't go every single game. If the season or the soccer season, the youth soccer season is about to start here in earnest now. So it's been a quiet couple of months football wise, especially the weekends. So and it all kind of starts again this weekend now. So it's been feet up for a while, but it'll be busy again from this weekend. So I'll watch most of the games either at home here or in my little outdoor bar, and hopefully it'll be better performances than the one I saw on Saturday.
So with the obviously the Premier League has just started. What's the ice hockey league, Rover? And do you follow it still?
Yeah, I definitely do. I collect jerseys, so I'm always, if I'm gonna buy a jersey, the first thing I want to do is make sure I know the guy who's on the back of it, and then but it's also extremely exciting, and I think that this last season that they just had with COVID and everything was especially interesting. And basically what they did was they shut them in what they called the bubble, and these people weren't allowed to see their families or anything, and it was just every single hockey player playing against each other, hanging out with each other in hotels, and going against it. And when it came down to the finals, you really had no idea who was going to win. And then they even created like their own Canadian league, which was a pretty interesting thing, just to compensate for COVID and everything. So it's been kind of a hustle and bustle, but it's been really a lot of fun to watch and see, because for me personally, I think that sports is way beyond physical. It's totally mental, and I think that those outside influences are going to play a huge effect on it. So it's always pretty fun to see it. And that hockey is it's a fighting sport. It's a brutal sport. So getting out there, watching all the people get out there, and in the first couple of games, they're angry, they're fighting, they're going against each other, but by the end they're just like patting each other on the head. They're like, next time, buddy, because these guys, after every game, they're hanging out in the hotel together. They know who each other are. And so it's really funny kind of seeing their chemistry kind of grow over the course of the finals and everything.
So obviously you follow that. What about I was out in Canada a few years back, 3 or 4 years back, and there's Canadian, I suppose it's called Canadian football as opposed to American football. It wasn't as good to watch. Do you follow that at all?
I don't know anything about Canadian football. American football, I do watch. I prefer college football because the rules are slightly different in that it's a much faster paced game, and there's a lot less regulation. I mean, in the NFL, it's all tackling and it's all head smashing, and but in college football, it's like super duper fast pace, and it's a lot more tactical, and relies a lot more on plays, and so it's not all for show is basically what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. What's that poster, Wayne? What were you
I'm a Giants fan, so I've been a Giants fan since well before I came here. My cousin Bernie, who you know very well, his dad was a fanatical NFL fan. So when we were kids, we would always go to him for the latest news. I'm going back the 80s now, I've got a Giant. This is when the Giants they beat. Who did they beat in the Super Bowl that year? They beat the Patriots at Indianapolis stadium. So that was in 2012, and I was living here by that point. So that was a big. I mean, anytime anybody plays the Patriots in the final, it was if somebody else won, it was a shock. I mean, the Giants were big underdogs at the times, but they've done it to the Patriots twice. So yeah, and it's funny. I actually had somebody reach out to me about an hour before coming on today. That somebody's traveling over here from back home in the winter. Can I get them Giants tickets? You know what I mean? So football season will be back here. September now, I think, or the preseason is starting now. I actually bet on the Giants this past weekend, and they lost to the Jets. So I've had an awful weekend.
before we come on to football, just one question on that. Have you seen the film Concussion, Rover?
Yes.
I have not.
If you're into American football, obviously Wayne has seen it now, and it's Will Smith, isn't it?
Yes.
Have a watch of that film Concussion. It's an eye opener on obviously concussion in American footballers back in the 70s, 80s, 90s.
70s, 80s, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an eye opener, Rover. Really is a cover up of American footballers back in the day getting concussion, ended up with lots of health problems, committing suicide. I'm sure at the end of it, the NFL ended up having to pay out people. It's well worth a watch.
Yeah, that reminds me of, funny that you say the Patriots. It reminds me of Aaron Hernandez, who, he recently he killed somebody. I believe he was a totally angry guy. He killed somebody, went to jail, and killed himself in jail. And when they looked at his brain, they were like, "Wait a minute, what the hell is wrong with this guy's brain?" And it was like totally swollen, totally like. It made sense, scientifically, that, he was always raging because his head was swollen all of the time, and he couldn't think, he couldn't form long enough thoughts. And so he was just a violent man, and it made sense for him to, end up the way that he did. And, they related it 100% back to NFL football. And so that's why I say, these are people who go out, they get millions and millions of dollars to smash their heads in. And, there's no other sport like it. And I think for good reason, but it's kind of wild when you think about it. Does it come down to skill, or is it, who's the bigger guy? And, at what point are we as people going to stop finding entertainment in violence and start getting it more like in real football, in soccer, where you're dangling around people and you're deking people on the field. And, it really is a much more skillful game. And now, I'm totally ignoring the part where you guys fake injuries on each other, but cut that out, and then we can have a real game.
What you've just said there about his brain being mushed, that's basically the crux of the story. They were hiding autopsies because that's exactly what they found. Was some of these guys were there's a load of names on there. Most of them I didn't know. I'd heard of a couple of them. But there was quite a few that committed suicide, and as you just said, murdered people. I'm not sure whether Hernandez was recently. This was a couple of years before. But it's just, if you're into that, it's well worth a watch.
I'm definitely going to give it a look. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I say Will Smith Concussion. I sound like Barry Norman and
Yeah.
film 84. We're gonna move on to soccer now. So if you do want to jump off, Rover, it's been great. Stay, by all means stay. Because but you won't know anything about it. But if you want to jump off, great. It's been brilliant to have you on. Great to talk to you. Keep those earn casts going with the double caffeines that you have, because the one last night, honestly, and I've seen quite a lot of AMAs with SafeMOON and a few others, and it was by far the best and the most entertaining.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak on your show. I know that, merging crypto and sports wasn't easy. I think you did a great job. I really appreciate you having me on. And hopefully, we'll reconvene when you're a millionaire in 6 months for holding my token. So, I'm definitely looking forward to that. You got a great show here, and thanks for having me.
No problem. That's all I'll say on that is I've got enough of your tokens. I hope to be.
Looking forward to it. All right, we'll talk soon. Thanks so much.
No problem. Thanks very much, Robert. Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
See
ya.
Okay, let's move on to football. So we've got Wayne, as I said, Leeds fan out in America. We've got March here, the co-host, who's an Arsenal fan. Great weekend, lads. We start with Wayne, who's the guest.
I was really hoping you'd say let's start with Martin, but yeah, might as well get it out of the way. I mean, really, really poor start on our. I mean, look, if you want to compare it to last season, if that happens 6 weeks into the season, 7 weeks into the season, I don't think there's a problem. But the fact that it happened opening day, I think, is a little bit more significant this year. I mean, that's 2 pastings in a row now that we've taken at Old Trafford 2 years running. Last year was almost justifiable in a certain way because, there was even some credit around it where, okay, they put 6 past us, but, Leeds kept going, and they scored 2 themselves and they could have had a few more and could have conceded a few more. And it was almost as if it was honourable, I think this past weekend was a lot different, it was certainly for myself anyway, you know what I mean? Everybody will have their own opinions, but I feared the worst when I saw the team sheet, and listen, I don't, as much as, I'm a massive Bielsa fan, the majority of people are, I'm sure. I think there is a little bit of criticism that should go his way, just for this particular weekend. It's not worrying to me at all, or, I'm thinking, is the whole season going to be like this or anything? I don't. And I know, we were having, a little bit of banter back and forth on Twitter, as you do. And, and I still feel that way, we'll be fine. But it's just the fact that it was the opening day, you know what I mean? And, when I saw the team sheet, I was like, it was, I've watched every pre-season game, Steve, and he does it in a different way to other coaches. And, we'd been conceding a lot of goals in pre-season. So you put it down to, it's pre-season, there's different lineups, there's different combinations, but surely at some point that's where you're trying to get to that opening day where you do have something settled. So for me, the glaring ones when the team sheet came out was the left-footed pairing of Struijk and Cooper at centre back. Cooper hadn't played all pre-season at all, possibly 45 minutes somewhere along the line, but he'd missed the majority of it. Llorente being out again was a big loss because he gives that balance. And then the other one for me was Calvin Phillips, obviously on the bench. And I suppose everybody's question is, well, if Maguire and Shaw can start for Manchester United and play 90 minutes for Manchester United after, Euros, they played as much as Calvin Phillips did in the Euros. Why isn't Phillips ready? You know what I mean? That's the typical Bielsa stubbornness coming through there with not everybody's got to do a proper preseason. And so maybe to the point, well, we'll go with this, and if we lose, we've got it out of the way and it's done. But for the fan in the terraces or overseas, as I am watching it on TV at 7:30 in the morning after a session the night before because I had a wedding, it wasn't very good viewing. Obviously, we got back into it just after half time with probably the goal of the game. But what did it last? 90 seconds, 120 seconds maybe. And, 49th minute equaliser. And I think by the 55th minute, we were 3-1 down or 4-1 down. Not coming back from that, you know what I mean? So really, really disappointing. But I don't think we saw Leeds' real team. You know what I mean? Like Calvin Phillips is our best player. I mean, I think, you know, if you looked at it throughout the Euros, I think he came away with a lot of credit and a lot of people saying, "Oh, do you know what? Actually, he is a top player." You know, the way him and Declan Rice played in England's midfield all the way through to the final. So when he didn't start, I'm like, we don't have a squad that you can't start your best players. Our major summer signing left back from Barcelona, Junior Firpo, you know, big signing because that was a area of the field I think was obvious that Leeds needed a player. It's on the bench, you know. So, and then you've got Stuart Dallas starting at left back, then going into midfield. And that's kind of where the whole weekend ends for me, is in that midfield area, right? You know, you had McTominay in there, Fred in there, Pogba in there, Fernandes in there, obviously. And then when I looked at a centre-back who was filling in for Calvin Phillips, Stuart Dallas, who moved from left back to midfield to deal with Pogba, like Rodrigo started as our number 10, but is really a striker. That's no match for a midfield of Pogba, Fernandes, McTominay, Fred. And look who scored all the goals. Look who had all the assists. Pogba, 4 assists. Fernandes, 3 goals. Fred, 1 goal. So all these were midfielders. So you have to look at our midfield and say it was completely out of its depth on the weekend. So you know, I don't know the intricacies of it. I'm not there on a daily basis, but you know, especially when Calvin Phillips didn't start, I'm like, this is going to be a struggle here, and so it proved to be.
Well, he's cutting his nose off to spite his face, isn't he? As a professional athlete, you know, you've played the Euros. How long has it been since? So forget pre-season, because they're, you know your players anyway. Yes, you brought in a couple of signings, but surely, as you just said, Maguire started, Shaw started. There'll be other Euro players that started for the other teams, even in the foreign players playing for Arsenal, and they will have all started. So to not play your best player, to stick to your kind of regime of, you know, you've got to do this and you've got to do that, you know, it's a bit of an obvious statement that it's backfired on him. But if you're a Man United player and you don't play, it's okay, because you've got somebody else who's nearly as good to fit in.
Yeah.
When you lose your best, that would be like United not playing Pogba and Fernandes because they haven't had pre-season, and they've gone with, you know, but then they'd still go with somebody like Matic, who's slightly less, and, you know, Fred played. Who else would they have gone with? They would have gone with
Juan Mata or somebody like that, you know.
Yeah, who's had an excellent pre-season. He scored goals. He's been fantastic.
I think a big thing to look at on the Phillips side as well is Phillips is so far in his career is a one club man. He's born in Leeds, bred in Leeds. He's a Leeds United fan. He's only ever played for Leeds, so he will understand that game, right? Not that he started the game last year and he didn't make a big difference, but this is a year ago. You can't keep looking back on that. And in the return game at Ellen Road last year, if you remember, he really did. It was a good game of football, and obviously we got a draw at Ellen Road in the return game last year. But Phillips really did have a good game that day at Ellen Road, and for the most part kept Fernandes quiet. And you know what I mean. Very rare Fernandes is going to be quiet. He's a world-class player. We've spoke about him plenty, and you give a player like that time and space that he was allowed on Saturday. I just felt I mean. Listen, the player's not going to turn down starting. Robin Koch, the German international who started in the Phillips role, if you like, on the weekend. He's not going to say no, but he's a centre back. You know what I mean? You can't just put a centre back who's half decent at playing football in there and say, right, you know what I mean? Your matchup today is Bruno Fernandes, and Phillips would have loved that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it would have made any difference to the result whatsoever, but maybe the scoreline possibly. But if we look at our opening day last year, it was a 4-3 thriller at Liverpool, and we went toe to toe. You know what I mean? Don't mind losing a game like that against what were the champions at the time. 12 months on, we've had our asses handed to us, and that was the disappointing aspect for it. But it's the only thing you get out of it is 3 points, or you lose 3 points or a point or whatever. And we've got to I think now make an instant statement or an improvement in performance again, home to Everton on Saturday.
Well, you've seen Calvin Phillips week in, week out, and I'll be honest, I've seen a little bit of him when United have played Leeds, or if they're on, and I've seen everything. Yeah, decent player. For me, he was top 3 best players in the England shirt in the Euros. I thought he had an awesome. And the only thing that I can think of why he hasn't picked him, which isn't really a point that if I was a Leeds fan, it would wash with me, was his stats of he was running like 12, 13, 14 kilometers a game. His engine was fantastic. But
so that means he's a fit boy, right? I mean, he's as fit as butcher's dog. So Phillips has played that role in the Bielsa for 3 years now. Okay. So what is it that Phillips doesn't know about that role, or doesn't know about the way that Bielsa wants that team to play? What is it? Is he not fit? Well, if you're on the bench, for me, you're fit enough, so I can only believe. And listen, it didn't surprise me. I didn't look at the team sheet and go, cannot believe it. It didn't surprise me because that's just his way. But that backfired, like you said. Sometimes that can backfire. Now, if we were away to, no disrespect to Southampton on the opening day, or Crystal Palace on the opening day, no, not Arsenal. Okay, maybe you'll get away with it a little bit more. But when I just saw those matchups, I'm like, 2 left-footed centre backs. I mean, I don't think he's ever done that before. And let's do it. Let the first time you're going to do it, let's do it on the opening day at Old Trafford. I mean, come on, and it's he's making £8 million a year to make these decisions. And listen, we love him, and I'm not going over the top in criticizing or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's the manager makes the decisions, and in my personal opinion, I thought he got 1 or 2 wrong. I would have liked to have seen Koch start at the back with Cooper, because again, Cooper, Leeds fan, been around, Struijk I think is going to be a wonderful player, but not yet. Certainly an able fill-in if one of the centre backs is not fit. Adam Forshaw was on the bench, but he hasn't played in a long time. But again, if you're on the bench, are you fit enough to play? You must be, otherwise you wouldn't be named on the bench. I just thought there was other ways around it than constantly putting square pegs in round holes. And we paid for it. I mean, 1-0 at half time, okay, not too bad. Although I didn't think we were in it that much. We couldn't hold on to the ball, we couldn't get it forward. The front 3 really didn't have that much of an impact. You get that goal, and then you're thinking to yourself, okay, calm down now, just settle down a little bit, and put up a good defense for the next 5-10 minutes. I mean, it wasn't even 5 minutes, and we'd conceded twice within a great equalizing goal. And sometimes, even if you're not at your best, right, or you haven't got your strongest lineup up or out on the field, a goal like that can drag you a long way in a game. You know what I mean? And it can buy you 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then you build a performance, right? And I think it's just this notion that we have to play the same way all the time, no matter who's in the team or who's playing in what position. We have to go for it. We owe it to everybody. Sometimes you owe it to everybody, and then you get hammered. Well, what do you owe people now? And what he owes us now is, and all the players do, they owe us a performance on Saturday. You know what I mean? So yeah, disappointing. Especially the end of last season still fresh in memory, right? And the second half of our season was very, very good. It was very, very good. I mean, we said on here a number of times, if the season had gone on a couple more weeks, they might have even nicked into that 7th place. We were on such form. But the biggest thing for me in the second half of the season was that the defensive inadequacies had been addressed. And there was a lot more clean sheets, and there was a lot more consistency. And it's almost as if we just went back to the start of last season, like from the very off. So listen, it's not. It's certainly not panic stations, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of teams that'll cop a hiding at Old Trafford this season. I think, I mean, let's give a little bit of credit to Manchester United as well. I mean, they played very well on the day. Some of the signings that they've made and the money that they've spent in Sancho and Varane obviously was paraded at halftime. Those are two statement signings for me to say, look, we came second last year. We want to really have a crack at it, this year. So maybe they can close that gap, a little bit. I think, it'll be interesting to see between now and the end of the transfer window. Does Kane end up going to City? City didn't start very well on the weekend either. And the interesting thing for me, there wasn't one draw. Either everybody won or everybody lost. So it was that's interesting to me. That is, because our teams. Our team's kind of like evolving into, all right, we're going to attack, even though if it costs us the game. There might not be that as many teams in the league this year that are boring or maybe shut up shop so much. So look at the amount of goals that were scored this weekend. There was goals everywhere. There was 6 goals at Old Trafford. There was 6 goals at St James's Park. Chelsea scored 3. So there was a lot of goals for an opening weekend. I mean,
Brentford scored 2.
Brentford scored 2. There was a lot of goals. Crowds are back in. It's which was great to see. Obviously, there was a big Leeds contingent at Old Trafford. It just felt sorry for them. That journey almost have been a tough one. But no, listen, we go again on the weekend. I mean, we know where we're at. There's no change as far as I'm concerned. It's back to right. Let's hit 40 points as far as we can. This time last year, we were in the exactly same position. We lost the opening day, and we did okay. So I'll get over it.
We'll come on to Arsenal in a sec. One more thing then. You're always talking about Bielsa. We always mention Bielsa, probably as much, if not more, than the team. It always comes back to him for the performance, for him for his genius. But there's a fine line between genius and madness, and he's a genius a lot of the time. But you could say Saturday was madness for you because it didn't work. For a guy that's and I'm just quoting what you've told me, that he's up in Leeds, he's there, he's smoking a cigarette, he's in the middle of the town, he's got no airs, no graces, and wants to be kept kind of out of the limelight, but then doing stuff like what he did on Saturday is putting him in the limelight, like what Mourinho, the opposite of Mourinho. Mourinho would be blunt, he'd be out there, he'd be wanted. It was the Mourinho show. So if Bielsa is the opposite, but then he is, stubborn, and he's doing things to put himself in the limelight, because we talk about him more than we talk about the team. Do you think he's consciously doing that because he actually does like the limelight?
No, it's strange you say that you use the word madness. I was on holiday a couple of weeks ago. I was in the Midwest, and the book I took with me was a book written about Bielsa, and it was called The Quality of Madness, believe it or not. So I read it in about 4 days. Really easy read, and it goes right the way back to his origins in Argentina, and right up
3 days.
3 or 4 days it took me to read the book. Yeah.
Lots of pictures, or
no pictures at all. No, there might have been a few in the spine, but it was gripping. Couldn't put it down. And I do genuinely think he's obsessed. And when you're reading some of these stories about what he's done at other clubs and everything like that, he just doesn't. I mean, it's admirable in a way. He doesn't change for anybody. I don't think he does particularly like the limelight. I think the way he acts does create a lot of clickbait and things, for TalkSport and Twitter and things like that. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, I think it was Stan Collymore, that idiot, this weekend, saying, he should be sacked or something like that. I mean, yeah, okay, Stan. I mean, there's plenty of things we could say about you as well, isn't there? But I genuinely, I mean, look, the guy didn't take a holiday this year. He didn't go back to Argentina. He stayed in Leeds to oversee the building work at the training ground, absolute obsession. You know what I mean? Which is why, in a way, as well, yeah, I'm disappointed from the weekend. You're losing to, one of your most historical hated rivals, if you like. But I mean, I think there's also a realism of where we're at as well. You know what I mean? We're not there yet. We spent 100 million in the transfer market last year. We didn't do that this year. And you know, I listen to a lot of podcasts as well. And you know, there's a clear strategy of why that's not the case. You know what I mean? And you know, again, you know, the finances at Leeds, they've budgeted to finish 17th. They did the same thing last year. They budgeted to finish 17th. And they've budgeted to finish 17th again this year. So, you know, the club's expectations are not changing. I don't think the fans' expectations should change either. We finished 9th last year. If we finish 11th this year, are we supposed to look at that and say, oh, that's a failure? I mean, I don't think so. You know what I mean? Let's continue to walk here before we run. And, you know, Bielsa is a massive, massive part of where we are. We're not where we are if it's not for him. There's no doubt about it. And the people above him who had the audacity to go and try and get this guy in. But I mean, you know, I don't think he's anybody who enjoys the limelight. I saw a couple of tweets this week about, you know, him still not speaking English. You know what I mean? And it's amazing to me sometimes how misinformed people are as well. And they just make you know, have their own perception on things. He said it plenty of times. The reason he prefers to speak Spanish through a translator is because his English is poor. So when somebody asks him a question, he's got this deep respect for a journalist that he wants to answer them properly. So if somebody asks him a question and he answers in English, it could come across like he's just talking, you know, nonsense. Yeah. But if he speaks it in Spanish and gets it translated correctly, he's giving them a more clear answer. It's, you know what I mean? I think some people think he's taking the mick, like, oh, you know, he's been here a long time. He should be speaking English now. Well, why? You know what I mean? I mean, does it bother you that he's speaking in Spanish or in English or through a translator? It doesn't bother me. You know what I mean? You know, I would prefer a clear, concise answer translated rather than, you know, how do you think the game went today? And he turns around in a poor English accent and says, not very good. You know what I mean? I'd rather hear what his real thoughts are. So, you know what I mean? I think he'll always be this figure of mystique and uniqueness. And listen, he only signed his contract the day before the game. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So, you know, people were worrying about that, but he's been like that at every single club he's been at. So, you know, to me, it's still a blessing. You know what I mean? Every season we have him. We've got him this season. Will we have him next season? I don't know. It'll certainly be up to him and the club. But you know, the way everybody's conducted themselves so far has been outstanding. Disappointing weekend for sure. You know, especially as far as his opening day, and you're always excited for it. But I did have one or two worries watching the preseason games, and you know, not having again that depth that we've talked about before to be able to deal with not playing certain players or injuries or whatever, you know, away to a team like, like Manchester United, who I think will be well up there this season, considering the money that they've spent and the time that they've given the manager as well, and the patience that they're currently having with the manager.
So in about half hour, I'm going to go to bed. So you're going to tell me a bedtime story of how Brentford beat Arsenal. It's kind of like
I watched this game.
It's like a fairy tale, isn't it? Before that, what's the signings and what was your expectations of where they were going to be by the end of the season from what you've seen? So forget the Brentford game. Before that game, what were your expectations? What were you thinking?
Well, I don't know how negative I want to be here, actually, because I wasn't thinking a lot going into this season. I haven't been that wired into sort of all the transfer goings on over the summer. It's just been a bit depressing, in all honesty. The fact we're chasing England's fifth choice centre-back and paying about the same. Well, wait, no, how much did United pay for Maguire? Was it 80 million?
Yeah.
But, you know, at least he's the first choice centre-back. Like, we're paying overinflated prices for English players that, in a degree, do improve our defence. But if we want to be considered as sort of pushing for Europe, it's not going to improve us to that degree.
Ben White, you're talking about?
Yeah, Ben White, I'm gone on, but he was quite poor on Friday night as well. I didn't see the game live. I watched it afterwards. Some of the lads at Jiu-Jitsu were grilling me, actually, like, oh, we didn't think we'd see you tonight. You know, Arsenal kicking off on Friday. It's like, why am I going to put myself through that when I can come here and get strangled by you instead? Not as bad. But no, since you're after a bedtime story, it was a dark Friday night in South London, I think, at the Brentford Community Stadium. There were 16,500 people tucked in and in there, nice, getting it bouncing. I think it was the first time they actually had the capacity crowd watching watching Brentford play there. They played us off the park, in all honesty. I don't really know what Arteta was trying to do with how he set up the team, but they just never really got going. Excuse me. Got completely outpressed. Brentford were on the front foot for the whole of the game. I don't think we really created a decent chance until maybe the second half. There was an argument that the young lad Balogun could have had a penalty, but I think it was a bit 50-50. Of course, you got VAR to check that. First goal came from not clearing our lines properly. I think it was Callum Chambers. He as well had a poor game, as did most of the defence, all apart from Tierney, actually, to be honest. Really nice finish from Sergio Canna, I think his name is. Cut inside, drilled it low, but I don't think a keeper of Leno's calibre, if you can say, should be getting beaten at his near post. It did come through the bodies, but, you know, a German international should be covering his near post, really, shouldn't he? The second goal, to be honest, it gives me nightmares of when we used to get battered by Stoke at the Britannia with those long throw-ins. I saw...
nightmares. This is a better story.
Nice story. Well, if you look at it from the Brentford side, it's how they beat the really annoying North London club with the most annoying fan base in the bloody country. I'll own that. You know, there were some people arguing that Leno was blocked on the line, but Norgard had a free header in the centre of the box, maybe 8 yards out. You can't believe him players free in the box from set pieces, if you want to call a throw in a set piece. Again, we've just not been good enough defensively for the last 4 or 5 seasons since we've lost players like Koscielny and Vermaelen and not really replaced them either. Just conceding sloppy and avoidable goals. And the thing with Brentford, they've come up from the Championship. I think it's the first time in the top flight in 74 years. First game of the season, full house, new stadium as well. All the things are sort of playing in their favour compared to sort of the decline Arsenal have been on recently. But that's no excuse when you're spending a good 70 to 80 million in the transfer market. And it's not really improving the squad at all. And again, with sort of Phillips not being available for Leeds, we didn't have Aubameyang and Lacazette available for some reason. Didn't even make the bench. I think the reason I saw on the team sheet was they were unwell, whatever that means. I mean, when we were unwell and we had a rugby game, we got told to put some Vicks on our chest and get the hell out there because we only got a flat 15. So, I do think Brentford will give it.
Any other positives apart from Tierney playing decent? Anything else you can think of that was positive?
It was nice to see Florian Balogun get some game time. I've heard a lot of good things about him. I want to say he was a USA youth international. I think he switched over to England now, but he's quite a quick centre forward. Sort of similar to Nketiah, but I think he's a bit of a better finisher. I don't really know. I don't think anyone else really had a good game. It's nice to see Smith Rowe starting as a 10. I thought Xhaka and I can't remember the new chap's name, the Belgian centre mid we signed, they both had a poor game. So there's definitely something that needs to be changed there. Someone needs to be bought in the market, hopefully, if we've got the money still, or I don't really know.
Xhaka just signed a new contract as well, didn't he?
Yes, he has recently, just after we spent all summer trying to ship him off to Roma, and he wore the captain's armband on Friday night as well, which is another thing that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I don't really, obviously, don't get on board with all the death threats and all the horrible stuff he gets sent to him, but I'm surprised he's still at the club, to be honest with you, after. But you look at how he played for Switzerland in the Euros, solid player, but he seems, I know they play a different way to what we do, and I think he plays a different role in their side, but I just don't understand what Arteta is trying to get out of some of these players. I don't know if he expects too much from them or he thinks he's a better coach than he is and he thinks he can sort of rally the troops in a way that he's not able to. Again, I saw a lot of Arsenal fans saying, should we just get rid of Arteta and get Antonio Conte? And who's saying no to that? Well, probably Antonio Conte is going to say no to that because I wouldn't bloody million years jump ship. I think he's out. Oh, yeah, he left Inter, didn't he? But even still, I wouldn't. So it's a bit of a poison chalice at the minute, I'd say.
What do you think of the game, Wayne?
Do you know what? A little. I got a bit in common with Martin this weekend. When I saw Arsenal's, and I have seen reports afterwards that there was maybe an illness in the camp, and again, certain players missing, which will obviously improve Arsenal's team. Lacazette, Aubameyang, maybe one or two others. I mean, Saka didn't start the game either, did he? So 3 players there who didn't start. So when I saw Arsenal's lineup, and I was actually sitting with a mate of mine, and we were just talking about putting in an accumulator on over here, and so we were going through each game, and I said, oh, let's take a look at the lineups, and when we saw the lineup, we both said, I'm not going anywhere near it. This was before the game. Even though Brentford, newly promoted team, they didn't go up automatically. They went through the playoffs, obviously. Been knocking on the door for a few years, in all fairness to them. They got the stadium, and it was a great atmosphere there on Friday under the lights, and that type of environment works for them. So home advantage, and they got their tails up. First game in the Premier League. Everything Martin said. When I saw that Arsenal lineup, I thought they could be in trouble here. And I honestly thought, yeah, of course, Brentford worked hard. They did, and they did press, and they did all the right things. But I didn't think they were brilliant. You know what I mean? But they still managed to beat Arsenal fairly comfortably. And the boys who scored the goal, in particular, Carnos. Carnos has been one of those players for a couple of years now. Is he somebody that a Premier League club will go in for? Nobody hasn't really. And is he one of those players that's too good for the Championship but just not quite good enough for the Prem? He's one of those players, and and he started well and he played well the other night. But I think that's because Arsenal allowed them to. Players like him and and other Brentford players. I think Brentford's left back was playing non-league football about 18 months, 2 years ago. I forget the kid's name, but and he had a couple of nervous moments. But a team like Arsenal, or any team, when you're playing against those types of players, newly promoted sides, you've got to do those things. Again, I said, still Arsenal with no bottle. You know what I mean? It's almost like they haven't had anything since Vieira left and Petit left, and those lads who used to like to get stuck in. That's a long time ago now. It's a long time ago, and I've always been a big fan of Arsenal as an institution, proper football club. Probably right up until the point that they decided to join that ill-fated Super League and all that nonsense. But there's obviously problems there, and spending 50 million on Ben White. Look, Ben White had a season at Leeds. He was outstanding, in that Championship winning season. 2 seasons ago, absolutely brilliant. We all thought at the time that he'd go on to play for England. He has. Leeds, I know, made a big offer for him last year, and Brighton didn't want to let him go. I think that was more in the region of 30 or just over 30 million. So in all fairness to Brighton, they've hung on for another 15, 16, 17 million. And I think it will end up being a good move for Ben White. You know what I mean? It's a far bigger club than Brighton, obviously. But like Martin said, 5th choice centre-back, 4th choice centre-back for England right now. Is that what Arsenal need? Is that what the Arsenal teams of the past have had? It's not. You know what I mean? Arsenal have always had England's 1st choice centre-back, Sol Campbell, Tony Adams before him. You know what I mean? And it's almost like they're happy to have the 3rd choices, the 4th choices, the 5th choices right now. At the end of the day, though, players, it's very difficult to attract players, who are happy with not playing Champions League football. Ben White's a good signing because he's young, and it's like, okay, well, I can have a 5-year, 6-year contract here. That's great for him. It's a win-win for him. For Arsenal, maybe not as much, but they can't expect to attract players for any less than that type of money who are going to go there and be happy with not playing Champions League football or even any European football this season, right? So you would hope that you would use a year, a club of Arsenal stature, you would use a year where you're not in Europe. And I know this has been, I know they've been in Europe a lot, but that's sometimes it's okay to kind of take stock and have a year out of Europe and really go for it, and not have any of those distractions and use that year to really build and really push on. You know what I mean? So you can get back into European competition and attract better players. But nobody's going to go to Arsenal. I mean, what manager would go there? What players who are proven would go there right now? Because Ben White's not proven, is he? He's starting to prove himself, but he's not proven, right? So they're not going to attract those players. And 50 million, a lot of money. It's a lot of money. I thought we were paying over the odds when we offered 30, 32 last year. And I thought, okay, because he's had a season with us and he was brilliant, I think everybody would have been okay with spending that money just because we already knew, right? But 50 plus, I mean, how much did Varane go to Man United for? 43?
40 something, yeah.
40
So
something.
they've got a much
So
better
when you're doing
player,
the
Champions
balance-
League experience, World Cup
Exactly.
winner.
Exactly.
It is.
So I think Arsenal don't improve until they have a change of ownership. I mean, if you want to go to the very, very core of the issues, you know what I mean? And again, Arsenal will be fine, but Arsenal fans don't want Arsenal to be fine. That's not what Arsenal are about. So I don't know whether I'd swap my problems for yours this week, to be honest with you. I don't think I would. I think I'm happy where I am.
Well, here's another one for you. Barcelona want Aubameyang. I don't know what they're going to pay him with because they're a bit short of cash at the minute. Maybe they've got a Barca coin knocking about or
Maybe they're
something like that.
Maybe
But,
they're doing a whip around in the players' lounge after a game or something. But I don't know. I don't know how that club is allowed to buy players. They should be under a transfer embargo. End of story.
Definitely. That's meant to be a swap type deal for Coutinho, though. So I don't know how that'd really work for us.
That would be because they I think it's 1.4 billion euros in debt. I heard this morning.
Yeah.
For me, the Arsenal thing is it's every club goes through a cycle. United for the last 10 years they've won hardly anything. They did their time. They had the 10, 15 years with the youngsters that would never win anything who won everything. That's come and gone, and Fergie's gone, and this, that, and the other. Arsenal had their time, as you mentioned, Vieira, Petit, Freddie Ljungberg, Henry, Bergkamp, all world-class players in their own right. Even Lee Dixon, Winterburn, Seaman in goal. They were the Invincibles. They had their 4 or 5 years from when George Graham was there onwards slightly with then Wenger, but then they didn't sustain it as long as Man United, and now they've dropped down, so they're in that vicious circle now where, as Wayne said, no one wants to go there. Apart from, you've paid 50 million for a youngster who Leeds knew how good he was, Arsenal didn't. 15 years ago you would have got Zinedine Zidane for that. That's or the original Ronaldo. I know prices have gone up, but to get Ben White from Brighton for 50 million as opposed to Zidane, from wherever it was to I think he was at Juventus and he was at
Juventus, yeah.
It's unthinkable. 20 million less for a club like Leeds, who have seen him in training and how good he was in every game. Fine, but to wait a year and get it's crazy. So you're in that vicious circle. Now it's how do you get out of that vicious circle? You can't attract players because you're not in the Champions League. You may lose a bang, as you just said, but yeah, okay, you'll gain Coutinho. Can't see Coutinho going for that. So, where do you go from here? We're talking where do you go from here? One game.
It's owner and then a manager, right? I mean, if I compare it to my own situation, at Leeds, who obviously, before the last 3 years had, a really tough time of it over a decade and a half, really. It really did take, and this is how we fixed it. I'm not saying it's the same for everybody, but it really did take an owner to come in, a good owner to come in and basically spend all his money on a manager, which he did with Bielsa, I don't think Arteta's in that same mold, really. Like, would Bielsa get more out of those Arsenal players? I think he probably would, So, I mean, Arteta, unproven, never had a job before. Yes, okay, one of Pep's disciples and all, but we've seen that over the years, haven't we, where the assistants don't work out somewhere else. Somebody like a Conte, like has been mentioned, I think would be perfect for Arsenal, to grab the club by the scruff of the neck and shake it around a little bit. But is the owner is he gonna spend the money that's required on Conte and then have the investment in players? I think it starts. I mean, these days more than ever, right? It starts with the owner now. In years gone by and eras gone by, managers, but those are the days when chairmen were local businessmen, right? And they were the ones with the money and they'd pump it in or whatever. It's not like that anymore. It really does start with the owner now, and the owner's vision and what he wants out of the football club. So, Arteta, I don't know whether that was the cheap option at the time or what. I understand he played for for the team before, and I got no doubt he'll become, you know, a good manager given time. But like when I look at him now, I'm thinking he could probably still put his boots on and play. Like, you know, he's so young looking and everything like that, and it's almost as if you don't have to do your apprenticeship anymore. You know, managing a lower league club or anything like that, you go straight in at the top. You know, if you look at Lampard and, you know, his experience with Derby and then Chelsea, as Lampard kind of basically ended his managerial career before it's even started by taking that Chelsea job, because what other top 6 club is Frank Lampard ever going to coach? And it'll be the same with Arteta, is my point. If it doesn't work out for Arteta at Arsenal, and I would say he's probably got this season now, right? And then that's it. If it doesn't work out for him, where's he go next? Because Man City ain't hiring him, Liverpool aren't, you know, Manchester United aren't, Tottenham aren't, Chelsea aren't. You know what I mean? So I think when these owners are appointing these managers, it's, you know, the buck stops at the owner these days, maybe a little bit more than the manager does. So I don't see how it's fixed. I mean, I think we've all got to give ourselves 10 games, right? You know, Manchester United had a fantastic start this weekend. But what happens if Solskjaer loses 3 out of the next 6? I mean, I don't know what your fixture list says. It'll be the same for Arteta. Arteta could win the next 9. We don't know, right? So, like, let's have a look at 10 games and speak afterwards. But you do see the same old kind of you know, things that we've been seeing for the last 12, 18 months. You know, with our managers, just like myself with Bielsa and the stubbornness and everything like that. And from time to time, he gets it wrong and whatever. The Arsenal performance on Friday just kind of stank of last season, and I know they had a better second half to the season as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. But there's still definitely, you know, 2 leagues in the Premier League. You know what I mean? There's the top, and then there's everyone else.
Yeah, I'd prefer to be Solskjaer than Arteta this weekend, because we've got Southampton away, and Arsenal have got Chelsea. What are your thoughts on Kroenke? Stan Kroenke, what are his thoughts on the club? And is he spending money? Is he? I know, is he? What is it? It's not Tampa Bay. What's his? Is it Tampa?
The LA Rams is the football team, the American football team he owns. I think it's the Denver Nuggets, the basketball team he owns, and then he's got another interest in an MLB, a Major League Baseball team. I think Kroenke Sports Entertainment is a company. Sorry.
What's his interest on Arsenal compared to them in, say, percentage-wise? What's his main focus?
I couldn't honestly tell you. I think it might be more to do with the Rams. I think he's been pumping a lot of money into them, because I know they moved from St. Louis to LA.
Okay.
That was a big controversy as well over here, by the way.
In what way? What was the...
Well, we've touched upon, like, moving franchises from one city to somewhere else. You know what I mean? And I think, and you know, it's obviously something that doesn't work in the United Kingdom, does it? You can't just pick a team up and go and put it somewhere else.
You're moving them to different states as well, aren't you? It's Missouri to California.
Completely different, you know what I mean? And we've definitely talked about things like that on here before, but not to go into it again, but like when you've got somebody who owns your football club with that mentality, right? With an American mentality, and a lot of them are American now, right? It just doesn't work. I saw a list on Twitter this week, I think it was, of percentages of fans who were happy with their ownership. And Arsenal were right down there. I'm pretty sure they were in like bottom 3. You know what I mean?
Like 9% or something ridiculous.
It was a poll. I don't know how many people that they asked, whether it was 100, 1,000, 10,000. I don't know. You know, Leeds was 90%, I think it was, or 93%. And then a lot of the teams with the American, or like Manchester United were 50%, I think, Steve. So for every 2 Man United fans you were asking, it was, you know, 1 is happy with ownership and 1 is not, which is quite glaring as well. You know what I mean? But Arsenal was, I think, 9%. So, you know, for every 100 people, Arsenal fans, they were happy asking, only 9 people, you know, were happy with the current owners. And you know, he's a very controversial figure, you know, over here, like a few of them are, who own, you know, an American football team and a baseball team and a basketball team and all these sports groups, you know, and all these franchises. The same mentality doesn't work in British football. It never has and never will. So, you know, I know Arsenal have been I think it was the Spotify guy who was showing, you know, a major interest in possibly buying into Arsenal or buying a majority stake in there. And I do believe he's Scandinavian. I think he's Scandinavian.
Yeah.
So
he's a fan, though. Apparently, that was the big thing that went with it. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, you know, at least if you've got to have one of these billionaires owning your football club, I think one of the first things is, you know, at least football should be their first love, right? And it should be their first passion. I mean, does anyone know, you know, the four of us here, anyone you know, what does Stan Kroenke prefer? Is it American football? Is it baseball? Is it basketball? Is it soccer? I've got no idea. Money for sure. I don't think it's soccer though.
I'd put a bet that football would have been probably fourth. It's the three American sports then now. So the American Football Club, where did they move from, did you say?
St. Louis.
They moved from St. Louis, but haven't they always been called the LA Rams?
I think they used to be years ago. Was there an LA Rams team in like the 90s or something?
They were St. Louis Rams, and then they relocated to Los Angeles. And I'm pretty sure a long time ago they might have been in Los Angeles to start with.
Yeah, they 100%. When I was living down in Wales, I used to watch the Sunday night Super Bowl program every week, and you've got the Chicago Bears and the Joe Montanas and the Dan Marinos playing for Dallas Cowboys, and the LA Rams 100% were a team back in the 80s.
And then they went to St. Louis, and then they've gone back to Los Angeles. So
did they change their name then to the St. Louis Cardinals? Because
no, the St. Louis Cardinals are the Major League Baseball team.
Oh right, okay.
So they're a big, in the baseball world, they're a big franchise. But yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. I think it was 3 teams altogether applied to go back to Los Angeles. I think Oakland wanted to go to Los Angeles as well. So but again, I mean, it's the norm over here. You know, we look at it and think it's nuts. You know, what about all those people in Los Angeles in the first place now relocating to St. Louis, and then everybody from St. Louis now they're relocating to Los Angeles?
Well, you just mentioned there the Oakland Raiders. Back in the day as well, they were called the LA Raiders.
LA Raiders.
I actually remember when they changed to the Oakland Raiders. I don't remember the date, but I just remember that. What's going on here? And obviously, I only now know because you said about it. But yeah, those Oakland Raiders 20 years ago, it was the LA Rams and the LA Raiders. I think they were like a black and white, mainly white with a black on it. I'm sure. But
no, you're right. But it's normal over here for it to happen, and we think it's crazy. But to the Arsenal point, that's the guy who owns the club. Is like, he's got, that doesn't make any difference to him. So maybe he'll relocate you to like the Shetland Islands or something like that, and you can get a bit of peace and quiet up there.
That would be quite good. I'm actually off to the Isle of Skye next week, so I could have gone to watch the game. That's quite worrying. If I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be quite worried about that, because if he's got, it's the same with the Glazers. They've all, that's Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they've got different franchise. But if as a businessman, if you're the main guy, and we don't know the business structure of it, but if you've got 3 or 4 pies, you're not 100% focused on the goal. And if he'd had the Arsenal team of 20 years ago, I can guarantee you that out of all those 4 sports, he would have been invested in Arsenal. His focus would have been on Arsenal because they had been winning everything. He'd have been there probably 3 or 4 games a month coming across, like the Glazers have done for, that's one thing you can't fault them for. Mainly the guy, is it Michael Glazier that died, wasn't it? The old man.
Malcolm, I think.
Sorry, Malcolm Glazier. Yeah. That, they were there quite a bit. And, I know very, again, controversial, like Wayne said, same kind of thing. But, Abramovich, he loves Chelsea. He's there a lot. But you don't see that with Kroenke. And that's obviously, like Wayne said, everything starts at the top. If you want to knock a set of cards down, you're not going to knock the top man off because he's always going to be there. So it comes from the bottom up. But if he's at the top and he's not got the focus, it's worrying.
No, I think there's actually a protest outside the stadium. Some of the fans are doing on. Is it Saturday or Sunday? I think it's Sunday. We've got Chelsea. So
Sunday you're playing, yeah,
there's been loads over the summer. Well, I don't know about loads over the summer. There was a couple when the Super League thing was announced, same with Chelsea and some of the other clubs. So it all just falls on deaf ears, really. He's got no interest. I think quite recently it's his son, actually, that's been dealing directly with the club and making the statements, Josh. So, if he's using a second... Yeah, exactly. He can't even be asked having a chat to us himself. He's making his kid do it and take all the abuse. But like you've both said, it's clear he doesn't have any interest in running the club to be a successful football team, treating it as more of a franchise. And I think when Van Persie and Alex Song were both sold, there was quite a lot of rumours that he'd taken the money from the transfer fees and used that towards, I think, building a shopping mall or some development project in St. Louis. I don't know if that was ever substantiated or what the evidence was to support that, but seemed to rub a lot of people up the wrong way. But again, it's just seems to be the Arsenal way at the minute. You sell your best players to your rivals for not exactly what they're worth, or probably about the market value, maybe no more or no less. But we are sort of a seller club at the minute.
Van Persie was a steal.
Oh, yeah, by league title, wasn't it?
Whatever it was, even if it was 25 million, it was way below what he was there. And it showed when he came to United, he had a good few years where he was probably on a par with what he was at Arsenal. But because he was the name at Arsenal, when he came to United have always got 2 or 3 others. So you kind of diluted a bit. But I thought he was an absolute steal.
Outstanding player as well. Broke my heart when he left.
He was outstanding. And just as you've been bringing Kroenke up, if you just give me a second, right? This is what Kroenke currently owns. He owns the Denver Nuggets, the Waganua Ranch, Arsenal FC, Arsenal WFC, which I presume is the women's team, Colorado Avalanche, Colorado Rapids, which is the MLS team, Colorado Mammoth, I don't know what that is, Los Angeles Gladiators, the Los Angeles Gorillas, and he's the owner of Screaming Eagle Winery and Vineyards. So this guy owns about 7 or 8 different sports institutions under his group. So with all that going on, how can the biggest institution of them all, which is Arsenal, be a primary focus? Like it can't be. I mean, a little bit with Liverpool as well, with the Fenway Sports Group, right? I mean, they've got the Boston Red Sox over here, and then there's Liverpool. Although they seem to have run things a little bit better than maybe Kroenke does, but I mean, I haven't seen Liverpool spend any money this summer, So they won the Premier League. They lost it last year. Didn't have a very good time. Had a decent end to the season. So wouldn't you be thinking now? Well, we won it. It took us 30 years to win it. We need to invest now to find those points back from somewhere. I haven't seen anything from Liverpool. Okay, Van Dijk's back fit again, but I mean, you've got Man City spending 100 million on Grealish. Kane quite possibly is to come for them as well, which I personally think. I know they lost this weekend, but I think if they sign Kane, I think you might as well hand the title to them now. Manchester United have spent money because they haven't done anything for 10 years and they want to get back ahead of Liverpool and like Ferguson said famously, again, knock them off their perch or whatever it was. And then you have Chelsea, who won the Champions League. So City, United, Chelsea, City, United, Chelsea, in any particular order, I think would be the top 3. I really do, because I think they're the three teams and clubs, if you like, who have got it together. I know Manchester United's owners get a lot of stick from time to time, but they've won a lot since those guys have owned the club as well. So, but I do get it from a fan's perspective. But they seem to be the 3 clubs at the moment that have everything that they need to maybe have a crack at the Premier League and the Champions League possibly. Liverpool, I don't know. It's not the Liverpool of 2 years ago, is it? And there's been little to no investment there at all on the playing side. So I don't know whether that's a confidence in what he already has. And I know they had a good result on Saturday, but again, that's beating Norwich away from home, newly promoted team. So, I mean, it'll be very interesting. I think this year, more than quite a few seasons gone by in the Premier League, especially, I think the big games this year, the Chelsea versus Man United, the Man United versus City, the City versus Chelsea, those games would be top games this year, I think. And I don't know whether Liverpool have got it in them to sustain it against those three.
Me and Martin were discussing it last week. Ronaldo's gone. Henderson is a year older, and he missing for part of last season. And he's not an influential player, so there's two centre midfielders there. Last season he was playing in defence anyway, with Fabinho, and they haven't signed anybody. And we've spoken in the last 12 months 2 or 3 times about Mane having a poor season. Salah did well, and Firmino hardly scored a goal for a striker. And it's always the Liverpool fans will come back on with, but he creates. But he didn't do a lot last season. So they got two aging players there who haven't done anything. They've lost a midfielder. The other one is a year older. But hey-ho, Van Dijk's back. For me, that's it. So if you've got, you mentioned their owners, and there's 2 or 3 of them. I think that's probably why they're on a better even keel with all the stuff that they've got compared to Arsenal, who've only got Kroenke on his whippersnapper. I think they've like what you've just said, Wayne, they've rested on their laurels. We've won it now. We've got the same team. Let's do the same next year. Well, you didn't. So if you were a United I'm surprised Klopp hasn't. He might have, and they've told him no, you're not having anybody. But that would have come out in some newspaper somewhere of the unrest. But I just think that exactly what you've just said, Wayne. What are they going to do this year that they didn't do last year with the same players?
Right, exactly. I think those top 3, Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City, in any order, I think those are the 3 who have got squads capable of having a crack at the title. And it wouldn't surprise me if any one of those 3, won the league this year. So then it gets to this, it's this broken record now of that final 4th Champions League spot, right? So, Liverpool, just scraped in, I think, didn't they? I mean, Leicester blew it again 2 years in a row. Usual suspects, Liverpool, Leicester, West Ham had a good result on Saturday. I don't know again whether they've got the 4th, but I can't see Liverpool finishing any higher than 4th in the league with the way that the other 3 have gone about their transfer policy. The managers, Pep's been there a long time now. Solskjaer's been given time, right, and it's maybe starting to bear fruit. Tuchel's already won the Champions League and kind of sorted that squad out in a really, really quick time frame, and then said, well, we still, if we really want to crack at the Premier League, we need a striker. Boom, 98 million, Lukaku, in you come. Mean business, So those 3, I think, are the powerhouse squads at the moment. If I was going to choose a weakest squad, that were the 3, I'd probably choose Chelsea's. Just on maybe Tuchel's had a shorter amount of time than Solskjaer and Pep have had to grow their squads. I think we'll see a top 3 combination of the ones we've mentioned. Liverpool battling it out for the 4th spot, and then after that, I mean, anybody puts a run together, right? I mean, it's I mean, and then we're talking about relegation, then, aren't we? I mean, and who's gonna possibly go down this year? I fear for Crystal Palace. I don't think Vieira's cut out to be a top level manager. Didn't do that good a job in the MLS over here. I saw his teams quite a lot over here because he was manager of one of the New York teams. And he didn't win the MLS over here when he had Lampard, David Villa and Andrea Pirlo in the team. You know what I mean? You would have thought you could have built the team just around those 3 and won the league easily. But they didn't. Then he obviously went to France and didn't do so well there. And Palace have taken a chance on him now. I don't know. I don't think Vieira's cut out. I think Southampton have sold. They've sold Danny Ings. Vestergaard went as well, didn't he? To Leicester. So their 2 main players worse off, and they had a horrendous second half of last season. Might that continue into this one? Burnley still here. Then you've got the newly promoted teams. Obviously, Brentford have had a great start, but it's a long old season. Watford had a good start, long old season. Norwich, got leveled by Liverpool. So, the only stat I'm worried about is you've got a 50% chance of going down in your first season and also a 50% chance of going down in your second season. So this second season is far more important as far as I'm concerned for my boys.
I don't think you've got anything to worry about whatsoever, because I'm just looking at it here now, and you've got I think for me now, looking at the teams going on what happened on Saturday, and Aston Villa, no more Grealish. That's them finished. They brought in a couple of players. Grealish made a difference when he came on for England. There's that old adage, there's no such thing as a one-man team. There's been a one-man team for pretty much 400 games for Ronaldo when he was playing for Real Madrid. They had some decent players, but if he wasn't playing, and as soon as he left and went to Juventus, they went downhill. So I'm not comparing him, but in a way, he's
the talisman, isn't he?
Yeah, he's their main player. So when you look at last season, and you had Leeds, you had Villa, you had Wolves, on the next level down. They've lost, 3 or 4 of their best players.
That's their manager.
Yeah, and their manager. Jota's gone to Liverpool. So you've got Liverpool up there. I think Burnley are like a mid-table. Villa, no chance. Newcastle, right, they'll be down there. Palace, Brentford, they'll do okay, but they may stay up, they may go down. Everton, they could be up there with Leeds. But then you've got Norwich, Brighton, Watford, and all of them will be fighting for something, right? I mean, I think the Leeds Everton game would be a good marker for both of those teams and clubs on Saturday, because obviously Leeds need a reaction. Everton have still got this skepticism over Benitez being their new manager. They had a good result on Saturday, but again, listen, and that's why I don't worry too much. It's the hardest place to go on opening day, away to Old Trafford, right? So it's gone now, it's done, and it's out of the way, and there's 37 games to go to make sure everything's all right. So we probably won't have a harder away game again this season. You know what I mean? Bar the top clubs that we've talked about, right? So Leeds' away record was good last year. So I mean, I think it'll be a good marker this weekend coming. I just hope I see the new left back start. I hope to see Phillips obviously start. I think that's a given. And then the team's looking a little bit more normal again. Then not 2 left-footed boys at centre back, and I'm sure Leeds will be absolutely fine. There's still 2 weeks until the window closes as well, so it would enthuse, I think, all Leeds fans. I think if another midfielder was brought into the club and possibly somebody else to affect things on the forward line, maybe not from a starting position, but possibly coming off the bench. I think that would be nice. But even now, I mean, you're talking even the top championship talent at the moment is costing you anywhere between 10 and 15 million. You know what I mean? It's bonkers money. But I think you'll see those elite teams at the top and kind of pull away from it very early this year. And then a big scrap kind of in that middle mess. And then obviously the teams at the bottom. I'll be very happy to be in the middle mess. No problem with that. Yeah, but I think the middle mess is going to be a lot less teams. Looking at this year, if Tottenham, if they lose Kane, yes, they won on Saturday without Kane. It's a great result against against the champions, against the team that have got 2 teams in one. They've got 25, 26 brilliant players. But if you take Kane out, who's the talisman, he scores 30 odd goals, he assists, and then you look at the rest, because Tottenham were battling up there last year. Arsenal, not really. They had an okay season, but for Arsenal, it wasn't a good season. You've really got Leicester, Leeds, and West Ham. Leicester, they've just got a good setup. West Ham have got good transfer window last season. They've built on that. Worryingly, they were losing against Newcastle, but then came back and scored, 3 goals.
Yeah, I think West Ham will be fine.
I think there's them as well. So really, you've worrying about, obviously you're not worried about it. I think in its simplest terms, lads,
it's who's improved and who hasn't, right? I mean, and if you went through every single club, I mean, City have improved. They signed Grealish, so that's an improvement on what they've already got. Not, Aguero's gone out, but we know he was leaving for a long time, right? Chelsea have improved. They just brought Lukaku in. Manchester United have definitely improved. They've got 2 players to come into that starting 11 who didn't even play on Saturday. I think Sancho got the last 10 minutes. Did he? Last 15 minutes, by which time the game was already won. Liverpool haven't improved. They're the same. You know what I mean? So again, where's that 20-point, 30-point gap? Where's that going to get closed? That would take a miracle. I think Leicester have improved slightly because they've bought shrewdly again. You know what I mean? So they could probably sustain being up there. Are Villa improved? I mean, their CEO tried to say that they have, right? Because one's gone out and 3 has come in, but Danny Ings and the other 2 that he's trying to make into Grealish. I mean, you're right with what you're saying, one-man teams and things like that. A lot of the best, the best teams are, those 9 or 10 soldiers, and then that one exceptional talent, right? I mean, even Leeds finished in 9th. Do we have a better squad starting this year than last year? The answer is yes, because we signed our specialist left back. The Spanish international who's been playing for Barcelona with Messi and all the rest of them for the last 18 months. Okay, that makes our team better. It's one player better, but maybe that's the one player that can sustain 9th or maybe push into 8th or whatever. We talked about this last year, but then those other teams, Southampton, I think are in trouble. I didn't see Palace, other than signing Conor Gallagher on loan. I didn't really see them bringing anyone in. So, Burnley haven't spent any money, which I know has been a big problem for Dyke in the last few years. And how he keeps doing it, I think he deserves, a lot of credit. Yeah. The promoted teams can't do anything other than sign loan players, really, and risk going down and, yo-yoing and the mountains of money that are involved. You know what I mean? It's almost like Norwich, when they went up, they went down, and now they've come back up again. That, they haven't invested in those 3 years because they don't want to spend 100 million on players just in case they can stay up, right? So, I think there's been a shift in that kind of mentality, where you've got, the rich getting richer and spending all the money, and the poor kind of staying where they are and hoping to be not 20th, 19th or 18th place. So yeah, in that respect, and as a Leeds fan, I'm not worried at all. We'll look at it again at Christmas and we'll see, right? But on paper right now, we shouldn't have any worries. But if I was fans of some other clubs, I'd certainly be worried. I mean, I know I spoke to Wayne Jones a couple of weeks ago, Steve, and he said it's the most worried I've been as a Wolves fan since the new owners came in, which I think was 6 years ago. They were in the Championship, they won the Championship, they came up, they had a couple of great seasons in the Premier League, finishing 7th and 8th, I think it was. And then last year it was kind of 14th now. And, so where'd you go from there? Manager's gone, best players gone, few more players have gone. The ones they've brought in, not that recognizable. Is it a year that they're going to struggle? You know what I mean? So, the gap between the bottom and the top is getting ever larger, and it's becoming more difficult to keep up.
Arsenal, Chelsea. What are your?
Is it prediction time?
I saw the facial expression. It was like Wallace and Gromit. Your mouth just went like that. I don't know what. Obviously, there's a good chance that Aubameyang's going to be back and Lacazette from their sickness or whatever it was. What are your thoughts on that? Lukaku probably end up playing, maybe, I would have thought.
I imagine so. Yeah, I think he missed the last game because he was quarantined, and I imagine that'll be over. He's not read on the Fantasy Premier League app anymore, so I'm weighing up captaining him because I don't know with his
your team, you're going to captain him.
I have 0 Arsenal players on my team this year. That's how confident I've been.
I don't think.
Not worth taking the hit, mate. I don't know. I just feel like we're a side at the minute that's playing with the confidence of more of a National League side playing a Premier League or a Championship side in the FA Cup, and they're just going to get bullied off the ball at every turn. And like you both said when we were discussing Arsenal a bit more in depth before, there's just no one really in there with the drive or the passion or the grit to want to grind the result out and get stuck in. And, if we are going to want to push for sort of anything better than a low top half finish, if we can sort of scrape about 9th or 10th with this squad, which, look at some of the players, we shouldn't really be worrying about sort of finishing mid-table, but we are. But again, I think that comes down to the recruitment. You look at United, Chelsea, City, as you've just said, recruited very well. We've got Edu going off doing missions to South America, like a football manager save, where he's picking up these Brazilian and Argentinian wonder kids. And yeah, Martinelli made a good impact when he came in, but he's been very sort of burdened with injuries, and especially for a young player where they've sort of had that initial explosion and they're trying to find their feet, it's going to take them a while to get back after a first big injury. So yeah, I'm not very confident going into Sunday. I think we're playing. But yeah, I wasn't really last time I watched Arsenal Chelsea, I think it was the Boxing Day game. Thought we were going to get battered. Weren't really in good form at that point. I think we were about 12th to 14th in the table, and I won 2-1, 3-1, something like that. So that's the weird thing about Arteta. Every now and again, he sets up the team and they don't necessarily play well, but the system just about gets the job done. And I think that's probably bought him a lot more time than maybe someone who hadn't played for the club for 5 or 6 years and been a captain would have got. But also, I've got a bit of a soft spot in sort of taking a big pay cut to come and play for Arsenal when I was a young fan watching the team. That sort of, it goes a long way with some of the fans. So I think some of us have got a bit of a soft spot for him, so we let him get away with a few negative. But, how long can we sustain that going on if we want to be taken seriously as a football club? And things like Arsenal Fan TV or AFC TV Media, whatever it's called now, it does no favours. I don't know if you guys saw that, I can't remember what it was called, the Gary Neville debate on Sky Sports, where they had all the different fans. And it's not called the cross section, but that's the thing that came to mind. Absolutely deluded Arsenal fans on there wondering why we're not being touted for Europe and the top 4 and the title. It's just like, what have you been watching for the past 4 or 5 years that makes you think we're going to compete with the top 7 sides in the Premier League this year? Because I just don't see it.
You have no depth.
Exactly.
Even you don't have 11. So you don't have 11. You probably I think to break it down is who apart from Aubameyang and Lacazette, who would you have in the Leeds team from the Arsenal team to improve your team? Apart from them two, that would be a.
I mean, I don't know whether I'd swap those two for what we've got. No, this is good quality players. Don't get me wrong, but Bamford scored 17 Premier League goals last season. I'm not sure what those two scored between them. You know what I mean?
Lacazette's never scored more than 10 or 12 in a Premier League season.
I mean, Harrison scored 8 on one wing. Rafinha, I think, scored 8 on the other wing, and Bamford scored 17 up front. So, I mean, probably before the start of the season, I would have taken Kieran Tierney, just because at that point we didn't have a specialist left back, and we needed one. But yeah, I mean, would I have taken Ben White last year? Yeah, but I mean, he's been an Arsenal player for all of 5 minutes. So, I mean, does that really count? But I mean, no, it's a really good way of looking for it. And listen, Arsenal fans would look at the Leeds team and probably would say the same thing, right? And they wouldn't swap this guy for that guy or whatever. But yeah, I mean, no, I mean, there's no one in Leeds' team right now, our best start in 11 anyway, that I think. I'd swap players for. I don't look, I looked at Fernandez on the weekend. I'm like, Jesus, I wish he was in our team, because I think we're crying out for a number 10, an attacking midfield player. So yeah, of course you take them, but that's fantasy football that Martin just mentioned. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, of course I would, but I think most of the teams that were in and around us, there's not much I'd swap for. I mean, if you look at what was 8th, 9th, and 10th last year, 8th, 9th, and 10th, I think was Arsenal, Leeds, Everton, I think was 8th, 9th, and 10th. So if you look at those 3 teams, which were mid-table or lower mid-table, as Martin says, I don't think there would be much between the 3 in what you'd swap. Richarlison maybe, Maybe you take him. But yeah, I mean that's the quality of player that everybody wants these top class players, don't they? But unless you're in that Champions League, or at least in one of the European competitions, I mean, nobody's going to give you a second look. I mean, I don't know how that. I've been watching a lot of the qualifiers, the Champions League, because obviously the very, very early stages, you have the Welsh Premier League clubs in it. So, I keep an interest in that and the, the Europa League. That Conference League just looks like it's a great league if you just want to go on a stag party every week, I think. You know what I mean? I don't know what they're trying to achieve with that league. And I know that's the European competition that Spurs are in, because they finished 7th. I don't think you'll see Spurs start a proper 11 in that competition at all, even if they got through to the final. I don't know any of the teams in there. Like it's great. Like for a football fan, it's great. Or, I think TNS won 3 out of their 4 games.
Yeah, they won. They won 10-1 on aggregate against a Lithuanian side. I think it was 5-0 at home and then 5-1 away. The only side I recognised and playing was Victoria Pleasant.
Right? The Lithuanian champions would be in the Champions League qualifiers. So what must that Lithuanian team that's in the UEFA Conference League look like? You know what I mean? Especially if TNS, which is our Wales's premier club, if you want, or them and the Connah's Nomads, right? What are these teams that Spurs are going to be playing? Like, is it even worth it? So you're not attracting those best players. Even if Spurs get 150 million for Harry Kane, who are they bringing in? Because you can't spend that money on someone who is happy not to play Champions League football. It's not going to happen. It happened with them with Bale before. The best thing that could happen for Spurs probably is keeping Kane. But then you've got that conundrum there, then, haven't you? Kane wants to leave, or it looks like he wants to leave, and he's at 27, 28, and he wants to win things, and he wants trophies. If he stays, he's going to always be their main man, and he's always going to score 25, 30 goals. But he's never winning anything, right? It's quite possible that he might end up winning nothing at all. If he leaves, Tottenham are back in a Bale-type situation from a long time ago, when Bale left for a world record fee at the time. And Tottenham eventually replaced Gareth Bale with Gareth Bale on loan 6 years later. Yeah. They spent that money on... There was a couple of decent signings, Eriksen, Lamela, but it wasn't players who won them things and, won them trophies, right? And they went on to bigger and better things because they had all this money. Villa will find out the same thing with Grealish. You can't get the 100 million and then go, okay, we'll have Ings, this player and that player, and that'll make up for it. It just doesn't work for that. So it's not the same quality. So, it'd be really interesting to see what happens in these first, the fledgling weeks of the new Premier League season, especially with fans being backed in. I mean, we haven't really spoken about that. It's a massive factor for me, is that fans are now, back allowed in stadiums as well, with the pressure that comes with that. And, players have been able basically to play not pressure free. There's always pressure, but, not with those people watching you and every move that you make and screaming and shouting at you and everything like that. So, and maybe that affected Leeds a little bit on the weekend as well. It's 74,000 there at Old Trafford and a small contingent of Leeds fans, and it's starstruck, isn't it? You know what I mean? Those players who had just come up from the Championship the year before went to all these stadiums and didn't have to play in front of crowds. Yeah. We beat Manchester City away. We didn't lose to any of the top 6 at home. There's no crowd there, So I think that would be a major factor as well. Last season for me, in some ways, wasn't real. You know what I mean? Especially with the absence of fans. So, it's really exciting talking about it right now with you two, and we're finally back now, and there's crowds in, and it's normal. There's normal. People are leaving. There's big transfers going on. Who's going up, who's going down. It's exciting. It's great. It's what you want to be a part of. But I think there'll be a lot of. Tottenham had a great result on the weekend, right? Fantastic result. Of course it was. Now, everything's all right. A week is a long time in football, boys. A long, long time. Winning at home to Manchester City won't mean nothing if you go away to Palace and lose, So, it'll be an interesting debate now over the next few weeks. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be brilliant.
I think just going back one step, what we were saying just now about the owners, you mentioned Fernandes and, as he scores a hat-trick. United's player of the season last year, man of the match on numerous occasions.
Best player in the league, Steve.
Yeah, but they went in for him the year before, and they didn't get him. And if that was Kroenke, he would have taken. He wouldn't have probably known about it anyway. But United's owners pushed and pushed and pushed, and then they got it over the line the following season, which is the same as what they did with Ruud van Nistelrooy years ago. He got an injury. He did his cruciates in.
Yeah.
Alex Ferguson could have gone, all right, that's he's never going to be the same again. They bought him, they rehabilitated him for 12 months, and he was one of our best ever goal scorers and penalty takers in the history of Man United. So to have that boardroom who are happy to spend the money, which obviously Kroenke is not, and to have the enthusiasm to push and push. I know that he was a Sporting Lisbon player, so it's kind of been United's feeder club with Nani and Ronaldo over the last 15 years. But to maintain it, to keep going back, because I think they put 4 or 5 bids in, and even the first bid was a decent bid for somebody that was an unknown. He'd done well at Sporting Lisbon. And he wasn't even a Portugal international. He was just on the verge, and he's come in, and he's, you can't compare him to Cantona yet. He's got to do it for another 7-8 years to become him. But he's had a very good start, and that's down to the owners, which is what we were saying the opposite of for Arsenal.
Yeah, without a doubt. Each club has its own limitations, and I think it's about how best you use that. You know what I mean? I mean, if you want to compare Fernandes, I mean, look, I think it ended up costing Man United, what was it, mid-50s, was it, at the time? 18 months ago, 2 years ago?
40 something comes to mind.
Was it? So Ben White cost more. do you know what I mean? Ben White cost more. And if I just look at my own house, we've spent very well. Like we haven't gone, our record transfer is still only 27 million. And we've seen value in players that maybe other people didn't see, and that comes down again to ownership, what the structure is underneath, director of football, scouting system, however way you want to do it, and a club that is run top to bottom. Yes, okay, we might have a few bumps in the road. Leeds had a few pastings last year. Leicester put 4 past us, Palace put 4 past us, Man United put 6 past us, Arsenal put 4 past us. You know what I mean? We had a couple of learnings last year. But we gave a few out as well. You know what I mean? If I have an identical season, you won't find anybody happier than myself, because we're not there yet. We're not there yet. So, you've got to curb that expectation and have a realistic view of where your club is at. I mean, the 3 guys sitting here, if I'm a Manchester United fan now, I would be expecting a title challenge. Yeah. With the money that's been spent and the players that have been brought in and the time that has been given to the manager, it's probably time now, right? Do I think you're maybe 1 forward player short? Possibly, but you'll be up there, as an Arsenal fan. I think Martin is totally realistic. And like he said, that mid to lower mid area is where I think Arsenal will be. And unless, we could be sitting here in 2 weeks' time and Arsenal have gone out and spent £200 million on 2 players. We don't know. It probably won't happen, right? But then the conversation changes, is what I'm saying. Yeah. With Leeds, I'd like to see 2 more come in, but if they don't, I've got that trust in the ownership that's developed over the last 3.5, 4 years to say, well, okay, they've done us well this far. So all our expectations, I think the 3 of our expectations are different, of course, and they should be, but I also think that we're realistic about where we are. And you can't say that for every other fan of your club, right? Of course you can't. And crazy thing I saw on Twitter the other day was that I think it's 3%, 3% or 4% of everything that comes out on Twitter about football and anything in general. There's 97% of people out there who aren't even on Twitter who might have a different point of view. So when people get into all, the social media, the Twitter, and seeing it, believing everything that they hear on TalkSport, and I think there's a lot of clickbait that's going on right now. I try to avoid most of it. I mean, I don't have to listen to anybody else's opinion. I don't need anybody else's opinion because I have my own, right? Yeah, we can talk about football, but I think if you're clued up enough about football and your football, I think you're realistic about where you're at. Just like I mentioned with Wolvesy earlier on, he's worried about Wolves this season, and he knows his football, and he's realistic to be worried, isn't he? You know what I mean? Because if we look at Wolves, we probably would think the same way. But, you know, I see ridiculous statements. Bielsa be sacked. Leeds are 100% getting relegated. Manchester United are 100% winning the league. You know what I mean? You know, Arsenal are going down. I've seen them all this weekend.
Yeah.
I've seen them all. Leeds ain't going down. Arsenal ain't going down. And Manchester United may or may not win the title, you know? But like, you know, I think most of it that's out there is good. And, you know, it's better to have these conversations, and hopefully plenty of people listen to these conversations to have a realistic point of view, because like I'm too old and I've got no time for the nonsense anymore, man.
I'm the same. I'd say it's, I'm excited for United this year than I have been for a few years, mainly because you've got people like, you know, Cavani signed another year. If he plays 15, 20 games, he'll score goals. You know, he'll come off the bench and score goals. He's worth it for being on the training ground. Signing Varane, for me, great signing to be there with Maguire, but also to have a French international there with Pogba. You know, is it a coincidence that he signed and Pogba gets probably played one of his best games ever, getting 4 assists?
There's more depth as well. Like Lindelof, okay. I mean, Lindelof started on. I mean, he didn't have any problems really on the weekend from Leeds, but like, you know, if his preferred pairing is going to be Varane and Maguire, Man United are going to play 60 games this season probably. Lindelof's still going to play a lot. You know what I mean? And what a very good player to come in if one of those two is unfit or needs a rest or needs to be managed. You're slowly catching up with City, and you've needed to, right? You've needed to. I mean that's the benchmark. They're the champions. They're the ones who spend all the money, and you know, it can't be fun for a Manchester United fan being in Manchester for the last 10 years. You know what I mean? Where, you know, after such a period of dominance, and then and now their neighbours are the dominant force. So, you know what I mean? It's a constant rat race to you know, to see who's gonna be up there. So I'll enjoy the season. You know what I mean? It's you know, I like making predictions at this point, and you know, those would be the top three for me. With maybe 2 or 3 who've got possibility to sneak into fourth, more than likely Liverpool, but no more than that for them. And then I think it might take a couple of weeks for us to work out, you know, who's in trouble. I mean, probably none of us would have picked Sheffield United this time last year, to have the season that they had, which was disastrous after the season that they'd had before, right? Yeah. So, you know, that's why, you know, we can't take anything for granted. And just because Leeds had a good season last year, a very good season, really, considering, you know, where they come from and what the squad looked like, there's no guarantee that it'll be the same again this year. You know what I mean? But, you know, so I think the finance people have got it right. Budget for 17th place, and we'll hope for the best.
So we're all agreed really on the top 3 in no particular order. And then probables, then you're looking at Liverpool, Leeds, West Ham, Leicester, and maybe Tottenham if they keep playing.
I'm not throwing Leeds in there. I'm not throwing Leeds in.
I am.
I'll keep my Leeds predictions to myself. But like, I think Liverpool, Leicester, you know, around that 4th and 5th. I really do think West Ham are onto a good thing, because they've brought Moyes back in, and he's not a stopgap anymore now. He is their real manager now, isn't he? And he did really well for them last year. You know, I looked at their starting lineup on Sunday against Newcastle. It was Sunday, I think. Strong, you know what I mean? Soucek, I think, is a wonderfully underrated player in the middle of the park. You know, he scored again. He's always good for a goal. Declan Rice, I think, you know, first, you know, the Phillips-Rice debate, you know, went on a lot. You know, who's better? Well, they played alongside each other for England. And I've seen way more of Calvin Phillips than I have seen of Declan Rice. You know, and West Ham fans will have seen way more of Declan Rice than they have seen of Calvin Phillips. I think what the Euros showed, certainly to me anyway, is that Declan Rice is a very, very good footballer. You know what I mean? I was impressed with him, you know, and fair play to Southgate, you know, not going for Henderson because maybe he wasn't fit, or just because he was fit, he should just come straight back in because he's won a European Cup before. I thought the best centre midfield pairing was chosen every single time, and that was Rice and Phillips, you know. So you know, I think West Ham would be good. You know, Antonio looked sharp on the weekend. I had him in my dream team, thank God. So that boosted my points a little bit. I'm not allowed to have any Manchester United players in my dream team because the New York supporters group will kick you out of the league if you've got any Manchester United players in. I'd pick Fernandes every time, believe me, but I'm not allowed. So I don't have any Manchester United players in my dream team, but they just they had Jared Bowen was playing. He's had a year under his belt, and I think West Ham will do well. They did well last year, but I think they would surprise. It wouldn't surprise me if West Ham snuck into the top 6. It really wouldn't. And then you've got the usual pretenders, right? You've got Tottenham are in there, and we've already spoken about Villa, Arsenal, and Leeds. So listen, a repeat season would be just fine for me, and I suppose it's prudent to say I don't care what happens to anybody else.
So predictions then for the weekend: Saturday dinner time kickoff. Some of these are obvious ones. You got Liverpool, Burnley. Matt?
Liverpool, you'd think. How did Burnley get on? How did they get on last week?
They were winning.
Oh yeah, they're 1-up, weren't they?
I think Brighton beat them 2-1.
2-1. Yeah, no.
So you go for Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Yeah, Liverpool.
Home as well. Villa, Newcastle.
Interesting.
Bit tougher.
Interesting.
Because Newcastle, they had a pretty decent first half. I think it was 2-1 at the break they went in, and then they
lost 4-2 against West Ham.
That could be a pretty decent scoring game. That I think maybe 2-2. If I had to pick a winner, I'd probably go Villa.
Is that Villa Park as well? So
yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
Go on then.
Probably just lean towards Villa a bit more if they're playing at home.
I'll go Newcastle on that one because they've had a couple of signings.
I can see why.
I think Villa now they lost, didn't they? Did they lose the first game?
Yes, to what was it? 3-2 to Watford. Yeah.
Watford was 3-0 up.
3-2. So yeah, I think that they, if they do go on a run of 2 or 3 games, then the questions will be asked: who's replacing Grealish?
I think they were 3-0 down, right? And then they realised that they couldn't pass to Grealish anymore.
Yeah.
And then they thought, okay, he's gone. We better do something else. You know what I mean?
Right, Palace. So 2 Villa, and I'll go Newcastle. Palace at home to Brentford, who are obviously away this game, and they're on a high from the first game.
I think that's already a 6-pointer for me, and I'll go Brentford because I think Brentford will just run this crest now for a while, where they're the new who cares team, right? We don't care if we stay up, we don't care if we go down, whatever. We're gonna have a go at it. You know what I mean? I think it'll be easier to assess Brentford a little bit more when it gets into the winter months. But I think Brentford will keep it going this weekend. I think they can beat Palace because I just don't rate Vieira as manager at all.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think they've got that initial bounce that teams sometimes have when they come up. You've sort of got into the mentality of winning. You've kept most of your squad together moving up. And like you guys said before, Palace haven't really signed anyone. Conor Gallagher and that Mark Guedes, but I think he was on loan at Swansea last year. So he's played a year in the Championship. Big difference. I'd say Brentford to maybe nick at 1-0 or 2-1. But again, I don't really see where, apart from Zaha, maybe I don't really see where the goals are going to come from for Palace this year.
For me, I'm going Brentford, but it's mainly because Steve, one of the radio presenters, he's a big Palace fan, and he can't see where a win is coming from at the moment either. He's very he's
pessimistic.
He's disheartened as a Palace fan at the moment.
I think they're in big trouble.
Yeah, so listening to what he's saying on, because we have WhatsApps quite a bit, and I'll go Brentford on that. Leeds home against Everton. Mart first.
That's quite a tough one. I think the way Everton play might. Sorry, I think the way Everton play might suit Leeds a bit more, obviously, than how Man United play in terms of how they match up. I've worked at Ellen Road for about 2 years in the fan zone bar. It is absolutely rocking when they're in the Championship. So I imagine the atmosphere the fans are going to create. I remember hearing as well, since they had that run into the playoffs and then got promoted the year after, it's been super hard to get tickets for matches at Ellen Road. So I'd say Leeds maybe 1-0, 2-1, something like that. But
it's probably the most even-looking game on the fixture list this weekend.
I agree.
Of the higher teams, you've got Brighton against Watford, but that's probably the toughest one to call. But well, Wayne, what do you think?
Can I make the prediction after I see the starting lineup?
It's a few days away.
Listen, I think if all things considered, it's not our first game back in the Prem, but it is our first game back in the Prem with a full house. I think that will go a long way for Leeds. I think they will be normally over the last 3 years when we've had a poor result under Bielsa, a better one has followed or a better performance has followed, and I think we have to do that with the crowd behind us. I think if we start Firpo at left back and we start Phillips, it'll look more like a Leeds United team. I think his big decision will be, does he start Klitsch and Dallas, Klitsch and Rodrigo, Dallas and Rodrigo? It's fairly easy if everybody's fit for Leeds to kind of predict or to debate, who should start where. So he's only, if those two start, Firpo and Phillips, I think he's got one decision to make. And either or would probably be fine with me. Personally, I'd go either Dallas or either Klitsch with Rodrigo. That's what I would go for. If that happens, I think we just edge it. I think we'll win 2-1. Okay. But I think if there's any difference to the lineup in what I said, I think a high scoring draw is a possibility as well. Maybe 2-2. So judging on prediction of lineup, I'd go for 2, especially with the heart, right? I'll go 2-1 with the head, and depending on the lineup, I'll go 2-2 draw.
I think Leeds will win it. I think Everton have had a decent season. They threw away a top 6 position when Liverpool were losing. There was that point in the season.
Absolutely.
Where, you had Villa, who were unlucky because Grealish was missing for 6 games. If they'd won 3 of them, they would have been above Liverpool. Everton would have been above Liverpool. West Ham would have been above. There was 3 or 4 of them, and they all died off for various reasons. And I think that so they've had a good season. They haven't bought. Richarlison was in the Olympics, wasn't he? He was in the Olympics. Yeah. So he's had a few weeks less rest. But I don't. So I think Leeds. It
was an easy start for Everton, right? Home to Southampton, who have just lost their best striker. Yeah. There's speculation surrounding Ward-Prowse as well, isn't there?
Yes. They
lose Ward-Prowse as well. You've lost all your goals and you've lost all your assists.
Yeah.
So if they manage to keep on to Ward-Prowse over the next 2 weeks while the window's open, I think that'd be huge. So I think we've all said and done. Yeah. I mean, look, I would lean towards a Leeds win. Historically, Everton don't have a good record at Ellen Road. I think they've won twice there in 60 years, 65 years, something like that.
Now you've said that, I'm going to go.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, the roles were reversed last year. We won at Goodison and they won at Ellen Road. It was weird, and it was both 1-0 games at the time. But I think Benitez's team generally sit a little deeper, don't they? Which, like Martin said, I think suits Leeds.
Yes,
Leeds will go at them, and I would think that the training in Leeds this week, I would love to have been a fly on the wall this week. I really would have, because I bet you they've been put through it this week.
Next game, I just want the result. Man City against Norwich, scoreline. I don't need to know who's going to win because it's obvious. So what would you... Man City at home.
5-0. 5-0.
Yeah, 5-0, 5-1, 6-0, 6-1. Maybe Pookie will do... I think he got a hat-trick the last time Norwich jumped up to the Premier League and they had City in August. I think they actually beat him, didn't they, somehow? Maybe they'll nick one early or one late, but like we've said before, the strength and depth City have, they want to be looking to put a rout on for that sort of game, don't they?
Coming there as well, I think.
Yeah. Oh, they're coming off a loss as well, aren't they? As well, so Guardiola's going to light a fire under their arse, probably.
Norwich who got stuffed. And I think as well, the guy who I play golf with every week, he's a Spurs fan. And I messaged him. I play golf with him in the morning, and then I messaged him in the afternoon when the team lineups came out, and he was more worried about Man City's bench than the actual players on the pitch. And when I saw the lineup, De Bruyne was on the bench. I think Jesus was on the bench.
Jesus was on the bench, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, was Sterling playing or was he even in the squad?
No, Sterling.
I think Sterling started.
The interesting one was, like, I thought somebody would miss out, and they did. Whether Grealish would start on the bench or Sterling would start on the bench, but he played them both.
Right, yeah.
So so I don't think Guardiola got his team right on the weekend either. De Bruyne's like, start De Bruyne. I mean, come on, start De Bruyne. The thing is with City and Pep as well, and he knows, right? He can lose a game, and then he can go win 10. So I don't think he'll make any mistakes this weekend.
But he might have, De Bruyne's on the bench. That must be to do with, he was injured at some point, wasn't he, in the Euros? Foden not even on the bench, so he's obviously going to be injured because he was injured in the Euros as well. Obviously he didn't play in the semi-final. So there's two world-class players. I'm classing Foden now as a world-class player. For me, he's I'd go as far as to, he's the only person that I've seen in the last 10 years that's like a Gaza.
We keep forgetting how old he is, Steve. He's so young, and his best years are ahead of him. We're talking about a boy who's already winning Premier League titles and taking part in European Championship finals for his country as well. So he absolutely, for me, can be classed in that category.
So you've got him and De Bruyne to come in to that team in midfield to go with Grealish, Gundogan, and I'm not even going to there's lists, there's 9 or 10 of them in midfield. So yeah, for me it's a massive win for City after that shock loss. A tough one, Brighton home to Watford. Matt.
Yeah, I might say I think Brighton came from behind, didn't they? Maybe they'll sort of have the extra Premier League quality to get the job done. But, is it at the Amex or is it Vicarage Road?
It's home, so it's Brighton, yeah.
Brighton Stadium. Yeah, maybe in front of a sort of full crowd, they'll be able to get it. But Watford, I thought they looked sort of really good value for money when I saw the highlights against Villa. Of course, they conceded 2 goals late, so, you don't want to be doing that. Hopefully they can shore up at the back a bit. But I think they 2 of the new signings scored, actually, so that looks like, probably not best to judge it after one game, is it? But it looks like the recruitment's maybe in order there. Whether they'll have enough to stay up, I'm not sure. But yeah, I'll go for maybe 1-0 Brighton. Yeah.
Okay, Pricey?
Yeah, it's a weird team, Brighton, man. Weird team. I mean, I think they took 6 points off Leeds last year. They were really, really good at making the game crap. That's what I found with them last year, and that's no disrespect to them at all. And they work with what they've got, and Potter seems to have done a really good job there. Obviously, they've lost Ben White now, but in a team like Brighton, I don't think that matters too much because they'll bring in another centre back, and it's probably the easiest position on the field to play or to bring somebody into if you're half decent. So the result against Burnley didn't surprise me. All the fact that they were 1-0 down and they could come back, they've got that in them, Brighton. I don't think they're ever going to beat people, 2 and 3-0. But it's weird. The game could be 0-0 and awful, or Brighton could, score a couple of goals and Watford nick one. So 2-1, I will go to Brighton. I think Brighton will win, which will give them 6 points out of 6, which is unbelievable.
I think Brighton as well. One of our other presenters, obviously we've got lots of presenters on the show over a whole week period, and Lakey, who does a lot for Sportanarium on and off the radio, is a Brighton fan. And he was saying last year, they play decent football with what they've got, but they haven't got an end product. So there was lots of games last year where, again, this is coming from him, that they were playing teams off the park. They were very effective in what they do, whether it's bringing other teams down to their level, which is basically what you said about making the game crap, bringing people down to their level and then nicking games or draws. But yeah, and if it's effective and you haven't got the money you've got 50 million now from White to strengthen it if they have got another couple of weeks, where they could bring in a couple of 20 million pound players who wouldn't get in a United side, but they'd be good players for Brighton. So they could strengthen and move themselves up to maybe an 11 to 14 position, as opposed to last year. So yeah, I'd go for them as well. Wolves' team then, home to Tottenham, who obviously are going to be riding on a wave. Kane's back in training, whether he's playing or not, whether he's even there or not. Wolves at home to Tottenham. We go Pricey first this time.
Wolves lost their opening game. I didn't see any of that game, so I won't pretend that I did. But I do read all the reports over, after the weekend or during the weekend or wherever. And by all accounts, Wolves didn't play very well at all. I think that the problem with Wolves is now they've gone, again for like a Portuguese manager, I think, which maybe could be described a little bit as a poor man's, Nuno, who obviously has gone on to bigger and better things at Spurs. I don't know whether this one's gonna work out. I really don't. So and I kind of share Wolves' fears at the moment for their season. I don't know whether they're bad enough with everything else that's around to actually drop into bottom three and go down. Historically, if Wolves do go down, they go down badly. You know what I mean? So I don't know whether they're at that point. But it does seem to have been maybe a little lack of investment there. And judging on, from what I read about their performance on the weekend, having Spurs at home who are, cock a hoop right now, unbelievable victory, kind of in the face of adversity with this star player, beating the team that their star player is widely tipped to sign for. I think they might be on the crest of a wave for a little bit now. And I actually think Nuno is a good appointment for Spurs as well. Yeah. So I still don't think he's going to give them, or that club's going to give their supporters what they think they should be getting, which is, perennial Champions League spots and things like that. But I do think they should beat Wolves fairly comfortably this weekend, and I wouldn't bet against possibly a 2 or 3-0 victory for Spurs this weekend.
Mark?
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. Be interesting to see how Nuno gets on with his return to Molineux, but I think with Wolves, they've lost a few, I don't want to say elder players in a disrespectful sense, but sort of more senior players like Moutinho and Patricio have moved on. I think they haven't really bought in sort of like-for-like replacements in terms of ability. I know they have bought in a keeper, is it Jose Sarr? But I think they've just got a few too many gaps that need plug-in. Whether Jimenez can get back to how he was before he had that horrendous injury, that's depends on the professional ultimately, doesn't it? Trying to think who else is in the side that I've never really been that impressed by. Adama Traore, to be honest with you, a bit of a speed merchant with a big biceps and no end product. I can see Spurs getting the job done, and I have to say I was quite impressed with their front three on Sunday against City. I think Bergwijn and Moura have had sort of mixed reviews since they've come in. I think maybe Lucas Moura has been a bit underutilized, but they're very fluid, constantly moving and around each other. I think Moura is dropping a bit deeper in with Dele Alli to help out, sort of pick up the ball and sort of launch those initial counter attacks. So I don't really know much about the new Wolves manager. I think he used to manage Benfica, so they're like Europa League caliber sides. I know the Portuguese league's not as competitive as the Premier League, so they're one of the bigger sides there, but sort of how good is it in comparison? I'd say maybe 2-0 Tottenham based on the current form they're in, but sort of looking at how Tottenham lined up against City on Saturday, I wouldn't say it was a team that I expected to get the job done. I think most people could say that. You had Oliver Skip coming in central midfield. I thought he had a really good game. Rave reviews from the Championship last year. Can't remember where he was though. Dele Alli as well had a really good game, sort of mucking in for the team. Eric Dyer, who I think is a liability at centre-back, shut me up completely and had a solid game. So, yeah, I think Nuno's that sort of manager, though. He did that with Wolves. He'll drill you sort of well defensively and give you the platform to build from there. So, definitely Spurs win.
Yeah, I go Spurs win as well. But, the point, all those people that you mentioned with Wolves, the ones that have left, they're international players who are still playing at a good level. They've let them go. They've brought nobody in. Last year we were on about Fabio Silva. They brought him in for 20-odd million. He was a 17, 18-year-old kid. Last year he was playing with no fans, so he had no pressure, and he didn't do badly, but he didn't do well for somebody of that money. So he's going to be in there now with a Wolves crowd, which is going to add more pressure. So yeah, I just think it'll be a Tottenham win. Arsenal, Chelsea at Arsenal.
Yeah. Not going to be a good afternoon, I think. Yeah, I just don't think we have the defensive quality to not get bullied by that Chelsea front three, regardless of what combination it is. Even if Lukaku doesn't start and he comes off the bench, do I trust a tired Pablo Mari and Ben White to contain him? Not at all. Yeah, I'd say 3-1 Chelsea. We're lucky to score though.
I was going to say, well, you're going to score 3-1, Wayne.
I would have. I'm glad Martin went first. I didn't want to sound like I was bashing on Arsenal, but I think it'll be. I think Chelsea will score 3 as well. And again, maybe a little bit with Arsenal, like with Leeds, depending on who's fit and available, and obviously if Lacazette and Aubameyang are fit to start or even possibly come off the bench, there's a more attacking threat there. So that would interest me. Whatever the starting lineup is, I don't see Chelsea not scoring at least 2, maybe 3. And again, I'd have to see the starting lineup to say, will Arsenal score? If I had to put a correct score down now, I'd probably go 3-0 Chelsea.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same. I say Arsenal may nick one if those two are back. And yeah, exactly the same. Monday night, West Ham against Leicester. Another tough one. West Ham home.
Ooh. Quite a tasty one. No, you go first, Pricey. Cool.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of makes me stop and think about that one is the Olympic Stadium and that they're back there. There's times where I do think West Ham are a better side away from home. I mean, if you saw, again, it was a cracking game, the Newcastle-West Ham game. I think Newcastle deserved a little bit of credit for the way that they played as well, because it really was a good game of football for the neutral. If West Ham can get it right at home as well, because I know it hasn't been a happy place for them since they transitioned from Upton Park, across to the Olympic Stadium. I think fans back in there. I think West Ham were definitely one of those teams that maybe benefited from not having fans last year. For the home games at least, and it did show in performances. So if that carries on, I think that could be a really, really good game. I think. But then I think Leicester, Brendan Rodgers, good manager, good signings again, shrewd, well-run club, always going to be up. I think it's fair to say Leicester are a top 6 club at present these days. Yeah, sure. So I think the fair one there would probably be good to go for a score draw, probably 1-1.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. Don't know, I'd say maybe a bit more of a high scoring draw, maybe 2-2 or 3-3, just based on how good West Ham have been going forward in the last sort of year and couple of months, maybe. And Leicester have always got a threat up top with Vardy, and I think that they've got Iheanacho to bring on as well. I think they partnered very well towards the end of the season. I'll say 2-2 for that one, but I think that'll probably be one of the games of the weekend, actually, for me.
It's on Monday.
Oh, God damn, Monday night. Well, at least I can forget about how badly Arsenal are probably going to play. So wash it out.
I'll go West Ham now. I think that Leicester, they're a good side, but they don't generally score more than 1 goal. And I think West Ham have got goals in them, so I'm going to go West Ham. They'll nick it by a goal, whether it's 1-0 or 2-1. One other thing that's popped up on my screen, obviously United are playing Southampton at Southampton. What was the score the last time United played Southampton? It was in February.
In Southampton?
8-0 or something.
It was at Old Trafford. I was actually doing an interview at this time of night. So it was an evening kickoff. And I was interviewing a Liverpool. Sean was another presenter. And it was Liverpool. So there was a bit of banter between Liverpool and United. But I was watching it live at the same time. What was the score?
Yeah,
was it like 8-0 or something?
9-0.
9-0, that was it.
I sit on every 5 minutes. He was, no. And I was like, yeah, there's 4-0, 5-0. And on the other, on my phone, on my other, on the other device, I had Chris Davis, Coco. And it was literally a Facebook message. And when it got to about 5-0, it was just 5 footballs, then 6 footballs. And then when it got to 9 footballs, he stopped answering.
So they dished out some paste-ins to them over the years. I can't see anything else other than a Manchester United win.
Yeah, no, I agree.
they looked super sharp on the weekend. You know, the boys who have come back from the Euros look good. You know, I think Shaw, as you know, I mean, compared to where he is now, compared to where he was, you know, under the Mourinho regime, is different planets. You know what I mean? I think Maguire's stock has gone up as well now after his performances. Varane, will he start? But it doesn't matter if Lindelof does, in my opinion. So I just think there's a lot more balance there now with United, and the team's easier to pick now than it was maybe 12, 18 months ago. Sancho's to come in. I mean, I know Daniel James started on the weekend. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sancho start this weekend and James drop to the bench. I don't think Cavani's quite fit yet, is he? But I mean, the pace that Greenwood showed, his finish was outstanding. You know, on the weekend, I'd fear, you know, Leeds aren't that bad a team. Do you know what I mean?
No.
I think they're a better side than, you know, Southampton are. You know, overall, it's not to say Southampton will also concede 5, but it wouldn't surprise me to see, you know, Manchester United score 3 down there as well.
It could be a big score because they say, and we haven't even mentioned people like Rashford and, you know, whether he's fit. And there's so much there. Mata, who's had a great pre-season. He's going to be a bench player, but there's so much strength in depth. But yeah, it's just interesting looking at it on there, thinking, you know, that's the last time we played.
Who scores for Southampton? You know, it's like they've sold Danny Ings, and you've got Che Adams. I don't know how many he scored in the Prem last year. 2, 3 maybe. So who scores goals for them? I mean, and that's it. When you're looking at all these goals win games, guys, right? And goals keep you in games as well. So, you know, when you look at all these teams, all of them that we mentioned tonight, there's not that many, you know, that have that. In the Prem, I think you've got to have a 15-goal striker, right? Like you have to have, you know, even if you're not that good as that. I mean, you didn't look at Burnley. Chris Wood, 15 goals last year, 15 goals the year before, however many it was. He consistently gets between 14, 15 goals every year for Burnley. That keeps them up year after year. When I look at Southampton, I don't see a double figures player in there, you know, from a goals point of view. You know, not one. You know, some teams have, you know, the top teams have 3 or 4. You know what I mean? And that's why they're challenging at the very top. You know what I mean? You know, Leeds have Bamford. You know, he has to produce again. Of course he does. But you know, I've got no reason to doubt that he will. Southampton, who? Crystal Palace, who? Wolves, who?
Who they got, and they're going to be against possibly Varane, Maguire, Luke Shaw, David De Gea, and Wan-Bissaka.
That's why I think Villa would be okay, because between Ollie Watkins and Danny Ings, it doesn't make Jack Grealish, right? But like you know what I mean? There's enough goals there to stay up, obviously. You know what I mean? And you know, but these predictions that we're making, it's like, who's going to score against Manchester United from that team?
Yeah.
I don't see it. Same as Norwich. Okay, Pukki's got a little bit of a background, and like we said, you know, he may nick a goal or something, right? But then it's going to have to come from somewhere else. But, you know, if not the main striker, it's got to come from somewhere else. Who? Is it a wonder strike from 25, 30 yards? You know what I mean? I just don't see it at all. So big. I think there'll be some big score lines this weekend. There's a lot of goals in the first weekend. Not a lot of clean sheets, I don't think.
That was the problem last season with Sheffield United. I watched them a few times, and they played some good football, but there was a stat that was roughly halfway through the season, and their 2 strikers, one had scored 2, one had scored 1, and the one that scored 2, one was from a free kick and one was from a penalty.
And one had scored none. So they they spent basically a combined 45 or just under 45 million on Ryan Brewster, and Ollie McBurney. And I think the return between them was, I don't think Brewster scored at all.
Well, he hardly played, did he? He hardly played. He was injured. Then he played.
Billy Sharp scored more goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And do you know what? Do you know what's interesting as well, Steve? I mean, I know we've been talking about Premier League football, but Sheffield United have played 2 games now so far. I'm not sure if they played tonight or whether they play tomorrow night, but in their first 2 games, they didn't score a goal. They've got all those players, even in the Championship now, Sharp, McBurney, Brewster, McGoldrick's there as well. They haven't scored yet this season. In the first 2 Championship games.
That's why
You know?
1 point after about 10 games in the Premier League.
Yeah, that's it. So comes down to goals win games, boys, at the end of the day.
Exactly. Right, 3 hours in. We'll call it a day there. It's been great to have you on. I nearly called you Wolsey then. Pricey, it's been great to have you on.
Yeah, brilliant.
We'll have you back on soon. Hopefully give it a month and we'll get we'll have had 3, 4, 5 games. There'll be a good run on there. Just want to have a quick shout out to a couple of guys. Matt Wallace, who's been on Twitter quite a lot. Obviously, we were back to the cryptocurrency from earlier on. Any artwork to do with on Twitter to do with these NFTs that Rover was on about earlier on, and Darren Robinson as well, another top guy, some good banter on Twitter. Was back and forth with him on Messenger for about 4 to 5 days, and so he just had a guitar in the background. And thought, oh, what's that all about? And turns out he's in a band that the song California. You probably haven't heard of it, Mart, but there was an American program called the OC, and it was the theme tune for that. And if you yeah, you'll know the song. You'll know the song, Price. You'll have heard it. He's turns out he's a guitarist for that band, and didn't even mention it, But top guy on Twitter, good bloke. Just thought I'd have a shout out to them. Great to have the almighty Rover on earlier on, giving us some tips on cryptocurrency and how everything works and so on. It'd be good to get him back on in 6 months when hopefully he's earning me a bit of money. And great to have Pricey on again. We'll have you on next month, Pricey, and hopefully Leeds will have a good few weeks. Keep you happy till next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's getting to that part of the year now, isn't it? There'll be loads of stuff going on. The American football starts back here, and the leaves are starting to come off the trees. So it's back. It gives you goosebumps. I love it.
Brilliant. Good to have you on, Matt. Good to hear your Arsenal stories. You nearly put me to sleep, so I'm going to go to bed in a bit now anyway with the Arsenal stories. You've been listening to Friday Night Sports Talk with Randolph and Martin, and we'll see you all bright and early next Friday.